There we go.
Great.
Cool.
Yeah, no, but back to the Turkish thing, Peter. That's fantastic that you're asking about it.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of my closest friends are Turkish, so this
Yep.
hits, and I've been there, and I love being there. And I love my friends from there, so and my
Me-
students. So it's heartbreaking to see.
Yeah, me too. And my partner's from next door, like right on the coast there, country right there, right in Eurasia. So, yep,
Yeah,
totally. You know, it's crazy. You
yeah.
know.
All right, so back to Ignition Lab stuff. I hope you guys all had a wonderful break. I hope your customer research was successful. I know that it's hard. Um, and I know that it's one of those things where getting outside your comfort zone, interviewing people can be difficult. So I do want to say about customer research and customer personas and all of that. It's an ongoing thing. It's like, your first customers, your first adopters, and the first people may not end up being your primary main customers as you grow your business. So, one thing Carl and I've been talking a lot about is that like all of these exercises aren't like I've done it once, so I don't need to do it again. They are all ongoing. You should always be investigating who your customers are, where they come from. You should always be investigating what your market is, what your market position is, who your competitors are. This is part of running a business, growing a business. And that's one of those things that like, we had a student in another class say, well, I've done a SWOT before. Why do I need to do another one? And I was like, so what do you
Yeah,
do? You
yeah. So literally, a student said, "Oh, well, I've already done this for another design class. I already did a SWOT analysis," and I loved Peter's answer, which was, "Great, you're probably going to do hundreds of them."
Yeah.
So,
I mean, if you go work for a consultancy like Deloitte or one of the big consultancies, that's all they do is they do analysis and SWOTs and comparisons and all of that stuff. So I hope you're taking these skills in and understanding that they're not like one time and you're done, that it's an ongoing thing constantly, and you never know where you're going to find new audience and new clients, new customers. I heard a story about a competitive company of mine that was positioned very similar to how one of my companies is positioned. During the pandemic, they identified a new customer base of tired moms stuck at home with their kids, and they found influencers in that space, and they grew their business by around $10 million over the pandemic by just targeting them. So these are lessons, these are things that are always doing. So I hope yours is successful. So today the goal is to go through each one of your customer research. We have less people because, as Carl can say, this is around when people start figuring out whether they want to keep sticking with this and go to the end and do the final pitch. We're going to keep it short still, so we make sure we have enough time for our presenter and to kind of go over what our next steps are. But the other thing is, sorry, I lost my train of thought. Consumer research. Oh yeah, we're gonna keep it short, but we're gonna keep just sort of like working through everything that comes up and trying to, maybe you discovered something in doing your customer research that has made you want to pivot your idea or change your idea, or maybe you discovered just a key insight that you had not realized. So, I want you guys to present what you learned. I want you really to tell me sort of like who you identified. I don't need to hear every persona, but kind of just a general overview of who you identified, what you learned, and any changes you're going to make. And then, as I said, at 6 o'clock, Taras Kravchuk from Tar4 Motorcycles, one of my business partners, is going to join us. And he's going to talk about trying to build an electric vehicle company, which is hard stuff. So, Baddison, you have your hand up?
Yes, I just had a super quick question to make sure that there's no misunderstandings. I thought that the homework for this week was in relation to branding. I see some people shaking.
Oh, was it branding? Sorry.
Yes,
I have a
I
thousand
wasn't
classes.
panicking.
I have a thousand classes going on. I apologize. It was branding, wasn't it? That's right. We sent you out to do branding, haven't we?
I was
Yeah,
gonna
using the
say.
AI tool and everything.
Sorry, my fault.
Okay, I didn't want to interrupt.
I've been in back-to-back presentations on entrepreneurship, on business building for a week now.
in crowdfunding, yeah.
Crowdfunding, guest lectures at 2 other schools, guest lectures. So things can get. So I apologize. Thank you. So I guess, yeah, we're
I
looking
am
at,
also
so,
here, by the way.
oh, hey, how are you, Mia?
Yeah, I'm
So
good. Boston
this
is
even
in
more fun.
America
Now we
now.
don't have to hear about customers. We get to hear about brand, which is even, I like brand. We're all creative. This is my favorite one, because then we get to see logos and brand statements and mission statements. Sorry, let me just take a quick look at that. And Carl, you want to jump in with anything?
No, I'm just curious on since the last class you write was Ray and branding. Did any of you like connect with Ray? And it's okay if you didn't. I'm just curious because I know that he loves supporting you guys. So, you know, if
I use the B-Blocks website a ton throughout this process, especially for like the literature and just mission part of the assignment. And that was like beyond helpful. It was like kind of scary how good it was.
that's
I need
fantastic.
to send him an email and be like, hey man, like this is my deck. What do you think?
Yeah, you should definitely do that, because they're also collecting case studies, and they're using this program as a case study. They're using some of the other entrepreneurship stuff we're working on as case studies. So if you guys are at success using it, please reach out to them and tell them how you used it, because you know, they're a beta company as well. So they're testing every day and altering based on what their customers are giving them feedback for. So I actually assigned it to one of my businesses, to like our branding and marketing team, and said, hey guys, use this and come back with what you found. So so yeah, now I'm seeing it's your why, and it's your customer facing mission statement, and generally your brand DNA, which is even easier because it's so nice. That's my favorite part. All right, so do we want to just throw in the chat? I see. Yeah, I don't think
Yeah,
are we
let's
expecting
everyone
more
put
people?
their team name in the chat, and then just pay attention so you know, like when the person before you is going, you can just jump right in rather than waiting for Peter or me or Oz to go, okay, are you here? You know,
Yeah.
so that helps us like keep the pace up so we can get to everything today.
And the one thing I will say is always just remind us of what your business is. I have it written down, you know, in my notebook, but for everyone else, just don't be like, and then I did this and it does this. Be like, my business is this, and always be that short, quick, you know, one sentence pitch. So excited to get started, and we will start with design.
Please, can you let me share the screen?
Oh,
yes. Hold on, I got it. Security, share screen. You got it.
Okay. Okay, so Dot Design Studio is basically an online interior design platform so that it is more accessible and where people can access all the resources for interior design on one platform. So this is my logo, and my tagline is "We design for a change," and that's how change begins, I believe, and even a dot can make a change. And why the pencil? Because I didn't have any specific reason, but it just happened that, you know, I do things when I'm just like with the pencil and I'm just doing dot dot, and that takes me to another creative side. Mission statement. So I realized first I was wondering, why are we doing the mission statement again? But, you know, after doing the whole research and everything, I got a whole new mission statement. And for me, this mission statement was important because I had this word empower in my mission statement, which states we empower the user with one single platform to easily make time consuming choices through innovation, diversity, collaboration, and layers to obtain their finished product. So I wanted that word empower, which makes our user feel that this is very efficient and strong. So that's why I understood the importance now, as you said, that why we do the SWOT analysis again and again. And then this is my brand guidelines. So basically, this is the color tone. So I had it done the color tone into a positive and negative. So if my logo and my tagline goes in negative, so this is what somewhat the reference would look like. And these are the two type fonts which I took. One was Artifacts, and the second was just a medium one, but Artifacts Extra Light was much better for me because it was more sophisticated. And my brand essence is accessible, adaptable, innovative, unexpected, and edge sophisticated. So for me, unexpected was something which I came across the consumer, because they did say that this was very unexpected to them. And finding resources across the globe will be very unexpected for them. And it, most importantly, it is an accessible platform. So this is my presentation.
Very nice. So why did people say unexpected to them? Did you dig deeper when they brought that up?
Yeah, so first of all, it went unexpected because they thought they couldn't get something like that, because everyone thought that interior design or even whatever product you do, you cannot do it online on a platform. You have to go it in person and get it done. And unexpected because there are times when you won't get the resources. So, finding those resources in one platform would be a task. So it is somewhat unexpected.
Okay. Yeah, Carl?
Yeah, my big question is, who's doing something like this already, and how are you creating distinction? So, in other words, what do you get when you Google online interior design? What pops up? What are the things that seem to be the most, related to this? And then how do you differentiate from that when you did your research on competition?
Okay, so okay, I had this slide, but I'm not sure where it went. Okay, so the biggest competitor for this is my market or target audience is from India. So the biggest competitor is Godrej Interiors, and Godrej Interiors is an company which has been launched in India like more than 70-80 years, and they
Okay.
have been doing this online portal for the past, I think, 8 or 7 years. But the thing it is differentiated is that they have a very niche collection. They have it very, it is not something which is categorized or customizable. It is like, you have this, so you can take this. You cannot select that, I want a little more gradient, or I want some other resource in that. So this is where so this is where it starts. So when you have like something small, it can be more customizable, and it can be, targeting an individual.
More agile. So you start in a more targeted market, you can be more agile. And if you scale, eventually you might have to have more template like formulas. Is that basically what it sounds like? So you can position yourself as more of a boutique kind of interior design. Great. That makes sense.
Yeah, very, very nice. Good job.
Thank you.
All right, next.
I think I'm next. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So our product is basically an app where you can customize location-based triggers, and this is our logo and tagline. So basically, logo is a map which has pins of different locations that one would follow in a day. And our tagline is never lose your way, never miss a beat, the ultimate travel partner. So it's basically telling you that this will be with you when you're going out, and it will be helpful. Our mission statement is to improve your travel and routine activities by providing a platform for customizable location-based trigger. The reason we improved upon it is because after seeing the TED Talk, we realized that we should start from why and then move backwards. So that's how we started that. Why are we doing it? It's because of travel and routine activities. And then we reached to the main conclusion. And for our mini DNA, we are basically using red and blue as the pop colors. Red is because if you notice in a lot of places for drop pin, we use red, and blue because blue is the most basic color for text, and it's more readable. And for background in our app, we'll be using pastel colors. Yeah, thank you.
Did you do a logo as well? Did I miss it?
Sorry?
Did you do a logo as well? Oh, is it that G up there?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. From a design perspective, the G, so especially when you think about apps, you got to think about how it's going to look on that little square on your phone. And if you notice and look at the best ones, they're very bold and simple. So this has a lot going on. I would consider I mean, we're just talking design critique now, but I would consider probably thickening the G and maybe only having one of the little tags and maybe the lines, but from a logo, it's a little busy. So you have to imagine your logo on letterhead, on business cards, on the side of trucks, on the side of buses, on iPhones, on computer screens, and generally really thin, fine logos, and especially logos where there's a lot happening on the inside, it gets a little lost. So I would consider, like, if you like that G, I would consider keeping it and thickening it a bit, because I saw it on another one of the slides. But I would also either take the background and reduce the opacity a lot so the G pops and the background's ghosted in. You just want to be careful, because I didn't see this as a logo when I first saw it. I saw the tagline, I read it, I was like, oh, that's great. And now I realize that that's the logo.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. Carl?
Yeah, I think it's beautiful, and I don't have the knowledge you do about design. And so I was just like, oh, that's beautiful, and you're very talented. And then I'm like, now that makes sense, because when you see all the corporate logos, it's not a coincidence that they're all simple. So that makes complete sense. My big question was location-based trigger. I've never heard that term. Like, what does that mean? That's part of your, what is location-based triggers?
Location-based triggers is basically when you will be in the vicinity of one of the tasks that you feed into this app, then it will have triggers like nudges, or it will.
Okay, so like alerts, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. Got it. What is your biggest concern about as you're moving forward? Like, what is the thing that you're focusing on trying to, what's the thing that you're like, how do I solve this?
So solving is basically, I think, categorization, because you can customize these plans. So, and also the second part to it is that some people make customizable plans and they can sell it. So how to blend and make it a little smoother, because there are two things going on parallelly. And so right now our focus is to make a beta version and start testing that out rather than making a full-fledged app. So we are focusing on having a very basic.
You're creating a lean MVP. That's fantastic. Great. Okay, I'm so glad you're being so thoughtful. I love that answer. Excellent work.
Also love that you used the start with why, and that was impactful. That has, ever since I saw that, it's stuck with me in everything I do. I'm like, tell me your why. Well, before I even get started, I want to know the why. So
Simon Sinek, if you haven't seen it, guys.
It was in the homework. All right. Get
Thank
stoked.
That's right.
All right, here we go, folks. Get stoked. Let me share the screen and we'll get started. Perfect. All right, can everybody see this?
Yeah.
Perfect. All right, so here we are with Get Stoked. This is the custom logo I made, logo type to put on the head of magazines. This is something that would be used as the main front of the company. Our tagline is Live Life Inspired, because that's why we're doing this, to connect street sports and show that they're really all similar. Our mission is to provide a platform where athletes inspire others through hard work, determination, defiance of norms. We want to highlight street sports as an art form. That's the biggest thing here. Above all, we're focusing on inspiration and aesthetic. So here we go with our DNA. We have here a mock-up on the top left, what a magazine cover would look like, different variations of the logo based on colors of the photos in the magazine, brand colors at the bottom. Rockwell is a slab serif font that I really love and think is super versatile. So I use that to use as the main body of text, as well as subheadings, all that good stuff. And our main logo at the bottom right. There we go.
All right. All right, you get extra homework. I want to see merch.
Yes.
I want to see hoodies. I want to see hats. I want to see decks. This is you nailed branding. This like if I saw this just on the shelf, I would know exactly what I'm looking at.
Awesome.
But
Yes.
now I'm like, show me merch, because I'm like, this is, you nailed it. I mean, I love how it grows in size. I love the exclamation points. I think you really, I mean, what are you in ComD?
Graphic design, but I hope to
Okay,
go into
okay, yeah.
branding.
Yeah, nailed it. You
Thank
know, this is excellent. And I love the word mark with the S and then the exclamation mark through it.
Thank you. That took
Or
a
the
long
logo
time to
mark.
come up
Yeah,
with.
I think that's so
Yeah.
nice.
Yes, thank you. That's the small thing we put out at the bottom of interviews and whatnot.
Yeah, no, yeah, no, I don't have a ton of comments other than, you know, when you're showing this to investors and our judges, make sure to be like, you know, it's a lifestyle. So it's not just, you know, it's not just the
Right.
magazine. It's also like, we sell merch, you know, you can have a Get Stoked hat, a Get Stoked sweatshirt, because, you know, I think this looks awesome, you know.
Sweet. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Do you want to go back to your mission statement? I just want to, you went through it pretty quick.
Yes.
Carl, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I love it, and I love also the 2 explanation points where they're kind of like coming in on a diagonal and stuff. Aesthetically, it
Yeah.
feels like there's movement and energy, and it's also grounding. So I love that. The thing that I was wondering, one of the things I wrote as you were talking was stoked personal. These are just I'm writing on an envelope. What is your personal, do you have a personal narrative, like a story about like where you felt like this was missing and you wanted to supply it, you know, so then you can like kind of
Yeah.
personalize like what this is helping. And so then that's tied into my second part of the question is, could this be used as community building as well as like a cool kind of like a graphic?
Yes, definitely. The main reason why I started this is because I have a love for like so many different street sports. And through doing them, I realized that they're all kind of the same flavors of like ice cream, essentially, like just different variations, but at the core, very similar, very aesthetic based athletics. And that's something that like you can take with you in all areas of your life, you know?
Great. Yeah, I love that. Just having that personal story, like that storytelling connected to like the origin of the idea as well. And it's great hearing that.
Definitely. Thank you.
Yeah, excellent. I mean, I don't have much else. I mean, I think this is great. I know I want a hat though, so.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Get on it.
All right. Next, Art of Honoring. Karen, are you there?
Yes.
Oh, there you are.
Can you-
Hi,
can you
how
hear
are
me?
you?
Great.
I see you, yeah.
Slideshow. Oh, sorry. I start from the last one. So is Art of Honoring is a therapeutic art virtual space, if you know, for pet owners in palliative care or just looking to honor the pet. This is a little bit of the difference that I make, and I realize it's not only for people going to palliative care or grieving or anticipatory grief, it's also for anyone who wants just to have a space to honor and talk about their pets and their feelings. So I have the logo, I have 2 options, one for the website when you can see Art of Honoring, and maybe another one more simple. And the tagline is connect and honor your best friends with art. And it might change. And the mission statement is Art of Honor is a virtual private practice that helps pets honor families and children to connect with their animal companions and their feeling by creating long-lasting memory using therapeutic art techniques. And it's very important that it's a virtual space because something that I realize is more easy for the owner and even for the pets and not in the place. And so they not disturbing and not creating stress for the pets. So it's more easy for the pet owners or the person who's going to receive the services. And this is basically my DNA. And the slogan, my audience is art lovers and pets. And basically those are the colors that I choose for the possibly website that I might have, which is, I choose colors that are like calm, and because this is mental health practice basically. And that's it. I don't think I remember anything else.
Can you go back to the mission statement?
Yes.
So I am going to ask, now that you guys have done your brands and your DNAs, to get all of your decks to match.
Okay.
So use your font across your deck. Like, you want to hammer home, like, as we talked about, the brand is like, you know, the visual representation of all the meaning of everything you do, right? So like your font should be carried across, any deck you use, your colors should be carried across. So like, I think like because you've had this sort of like very playful graphics and like sort of like more just more like happy. And then the brand guide next that you showed me is more serious, it's more sophisticated. So we're gonna want to, like, in your final presentation, you're gonna want to carry that through because you want it all to match. That like shows that like it's like an attention to detail thing, especially for investors. You know, I sometimes I've had investors be like, your deck looks too nice, but I'm like, you know, but sometimes that's good. You know, maybe they won't look too much in my graphs. But yeah, so that's the one thing is, you know, go back to your previous ones and make sure to add some of that in there. And then, okay, and then let me see the logo and colors again, and DNA. So the one on the right-hand side, the AH, it also still will read a little hard with the really thin lines. So you want to just be really careful about it because you have to imagine it blown up, shrunk down. And it's like one of those things where, like, you know, and we can have Finn, he's ComD, he can tell you, like, you got to have some punchiness to logos. The color and contrast is great, but like the logo with the paw print that's sort of faded behind it, that would be very hard to translate across like all mediums, you know? And that's, I mean, you can have other logos, but I always use the example of FedEx. I mean, that logo is designed by one of the most famous graphic designers ever. It's got the arrow hidden in it between the E and the X, which is super cool. You know, but you want it so like it can be used in any sort of situation that you could come up with. As I said, from posters and billboards to as small as an app, and be completely readable across all forms. And one of the great ways that I've heard it described to me is like, if I took your logo and your brand guide and I ripped it up and threw it on the ground and someone was walking by, would they be able to recognize the brand? So like Coca-Cola, McDonald's, you see a piece of their logo on the ground in garbage, and you're like, your brain automatically triggers that it's Coca-Cola, McDonald's. So that's sort of an important thing. I mean, and this is more like the artistic side of it, like, you know, so artistic and brand and marketing side. But that's the only thing I would push, is that like maybe you want to thicken up those letters a little bit. I like the AH, they're stacked nicely. I like the circle logo. I like the written logo, but I would probably drop the paw. And you can sort of get that, you know, get that in your statement and your mission and how you build everything else out, you know? But definitely you're going to want to carry all that through everything you do from now on. Okay.
Okay. Perfect.
Carl?
Yep. So, okay, Peter drilled down on the design part. I want to drill down on the therapy part because that's what I know a lot about. So I just want to see if I understand this correctly. Is it art therapists within that specialize on pet like what exactly? Who are what is the background of the therapist? What is their specialty that would be involved in this? Like,
so basically, I'm an art therapist. I just recently graduated. So it's using the same tools of a therapeutic part, like counseling, grieving, just talk therapy, but I'm using art. So I'm bringing the art part.
So art therapy, then where the pets come in?
The pets come in when like is the pet owner is having like any problem with usually what's used palliative care, like anticipatory grief. So I will be there like talking about their feelings, providing a safe place for them like to talk about what's going on, and doing art with them. And by doing art, they're able to understand what's going on and reconnect with their pet. Because what happens is like when you're experiencing anticipatory grief or grief, you disconnect for the person because you want to avoid having the grieving part. So our therapy does is provide you a safe space for you like to actually connect and reflect in your relationship.
Okay, so this is I'm sorry, now I totally get what you're saying. So this is specifically for people that are grieving a pet.
Not specifically only for people who are grieving their pet, it's also for anyone who wants to honor their.
I guess
pet.
I'm trying to understand the paw print, the pet part. Like, you know, sorry if I'm not getting it completely.
No.
Yeah.
My purpose is helping anyone to connect with their pet. It could be what I was doing my thesis project, art therapy and pet and grieving owners, and something that I realized is by doing it with pet owners who still have their pet kind of healthy, just like they were like senior pets. By doing art, they were able to reconnect with their pet, not because they were like completely grieving, it because the art itself helped them to connect. So I say like, this is not only for anyone who's experiencing grief, it could be for someone who have a new puppy and it's like, the puppy's annoying. Like, okay, let's talk about it, and like providing that space for like reconnect. So it's connecting and honoring. That's why the slogan is there, because those are the main parts that I really want to.
Okay. So I think, yeah, we'll just like, we'll make it so it's super crystal clear what that connection is. I love the idea. I think it just needs a little bit of teasing to really clarify the art therapy and the pet. And then is your target demographic like only pet owners to begin with? And then how would you scale that? Those would be the kind of things that we'd want to explore.
So can you repeat it? It would be more like me redoing or making more clear who is
just clarifying like what is this art therapy that specializes in pet owners? You know, like that, you know what I mean? Like just be super, because I'm a little confused, and I even have a therapy degree. So I think I love the idea, and you're very talented in the branding and everything. I'm just a little bit unclear about who exactly this is for and how exactly the interconnection between the pet and the art therapy operates, and like what the conditions are. Does that make sense?
The other part is like, for me right now, if I want to do my business plan, because I don't have a license as an art therapist, I cannot say in my statement or anything.
No, I understand, but this is conceptual anyways. You don't have to bring it to market, but let's assume that eventually you have your license. What would you do with this? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll jump in because I get your idea, and from the minute you pitched it, I thought it was a very good idea, because I'm a pet owner, and you know, last time I told the story when my previous dog was dying, and I knew I had to go put her down that day. I spent the day with her doing watercolors over it. So I understand.
That is perfect.
Yeah, I understand exactly. And I the one thing I had not thought about is like, when you're dealing with an annoying puppy that you love so much, but it's driving you crazy, having the opportunity to connect with it, also like finding that moment with them, you know. And I do get where you were getting confused, Carl. And I even look at the slogan and I'm like, honor with your connect and honor your best friend with art. You may also want to qualify that with like fuzzy best friend. You know, like just so like there's art of honoring, and then if I saw art of honoring and then I saw that, I mean the paw print helps. But like it's gonna take a little finesse, and I think, Carl, you're right. You're gonna have to like drill it down. So like someone who doesn't, I get it because I've done it, you know, and I know the importance of it. But if I wasn't a pet owner and I didn't fully understand it, it would maybe take me a little bit to get as well.
Great. Thanks.
Nice job. Keep going. All right.
Thank you. How do I disconnect?
That one looks really nice.
Start sharing. There you go.
There you go.
Who's next?
Goo.
Hi. Let me share the screen. Can you guys see the screen?
Yep.
Okay. So our brand is Goo, and so we are a company specialized in creating unique space solutions through customization using cutting-edge technology, utilizing mycelium-based biomaterial to create eco-friendly and sustainable products for our clients. So basically, we are doing interior design and furniture design by using our mycelium material. And we are funded by 3 industrial designers, and to offer high quality and excellent craftsmanship products. Those are some we are trying to get some products like this. And next, we are maybe doing the wall panels. Yeah. And there's the logo, font, and color. Yeah. That's it. Thank you.
Can you go back to your mission statement for me?
Yeah.
Some of this I think we could cut down.
Mhm.
I think it's overly wordy, because unique space. I mean, cutting edge and unique kind of are simultaneous. And is mycelium really cutting edge technology? It's new, but it's not cutting edge. It's growing
Right.
spores, in a mold.
Mhm.
So it's not like, and I'm going to give you some resources to look at. So
Mhm.
NPR just had a whole thing on like the mushroom and on one of their podcasts. And one of the things they did was about mycelium, and they had Daniel Trofia on, who is a Pratt professor who does the mycelium lights for Brooklyn One Hotel. She's done a Kickstarter for them where people could buy and make and grow their own mycelium lights. And they talked directly about how mycelium works to make great soundproofing panels. So that means it's out there. So like saying that, so I would kind of figure out what defines you other than that you're using mycelium. That is a part of it. But is it that your design is better than the people that are already using it? Is it like, how do you differentiate yourself from people that are already becoming industry leaders using this material? Because this material is starting to be used much more commonly at an industrial scale for interior design, for furniture, for lighting. So this is like, I know you've done your competitive research, but this is like going back because, I mean, today I had in the last 2 days, I've had 2 different people pitch me mycelium-based products. One was a way to bury your pets, which Karen, you may like. Is like you grow your own coffin for your pets and then you bury them in mycelium. So that's seeded so it can grow a tree, which I thought was a beautiful idea. And another was it was actually for furniture, for actually the stuffing inside. So it'd be upholstered, but it was like mycelium stuffing with eco, pineapple leather upholstery, and then like a reclaimed or scrap metal recasted frame. So, you're in a space where there's a lot of people trying to define this. So I do suggest cut a lot of the extra words out and try to define it as like, innovating space with natural mycelium. That's great, but specializing, like, let's try to bear that down to like, we are going to, I don't know, I'm not the best at this. I've also, my brain is slightly frayed right now, but I just would say like, know what you are, know what you aren't, define that, and then simplify it a little bit, because you have you're going to be in a noisy space where a lot of other startups are. So, and those startups are also going to the same investors, eco-conscious investors that are interested in new materials, and they're going to be getting pitched different mycelium businesses. So they're going to know it really well. So if you're like, we're new and innovative, they're going to be like, but I saw someone else that's doing sound panels in mycelium the other day. Right. So like, if it's design, if it's your manufacturing technique, if your cost is cheaper, if you're like, everyone else is 200 a panel, we're 50 bucks a panel. And here's why, because we infuse it back with a hemp, or something. So it doesn't have to use as much, or we can grow it double as fast because we figured out a way to get it to culture faster, So like those are benefits for me as an investor that's in this space that would be interested in your company that I would want to hear, and not just a bunch of buzzwords. Because for someone who doesn't know about mycelium and mycelium furniture, great, sounds great, everything you're pitching me. But for someone who does know about how it's growing in the industry and being used in design and manufacturing, and Taurus, who will join us soon, we've tested using it for parts on our bike, for dampening compression. So it's like, avoid the buzzwords and really tell us why your mycelium business is different than all these other ones. Okay.
Okay.
And that's
Carl,
my
you wanna
main
jump in on
point.
that?
My biggest point was how you're creating differentiation because you have a beautiful logo, you have a great sense of aesthetic. I just want to know like what is different about this and the other products. So it's the same thing that Peter said. You're off to a great start. Good work.
Can you go back to your product photos?
Yeah.
So is that a sound panel or what is that? A plate? What is that for?
That's a lampshade.
Lampshade. Okay. So yeah. So that's probably the most competitive space around this. Can you show me the dish?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's nice. I mean, it's like a carry-all. I mean, you could position yourself instead of innovative and cutting edge, to just be like, a very beautiful tabletop mycelium company making beautiful objects out of mycelium. There's absolutely no reason that someone who's a slip caster or pottery needs to call themselves cutting edge. You can just be better by design.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
So remember, guys, be ready to go when the person before you is going. Great. Excellent, Monica. Did you freeze up, Monica?
Maybe
Can someone go before me? Like there's something.
try to
happening.
exit and then come back.
Yeah. Mm,
Technology. Woo. There we go. We can see it. Perfect.
Sorry
Great.
about that. Okay, so our company changed our name from Evoke to Fill 'em Up because we wanted to make them feel like they are at home and where someone is taking care of the nutritious and their health because we are focusing on the students who are food insecure, and we are also helping to reduce food wastage. And our tagline is get your food on, so that it's more over like rather than procrastinating about, okay, we want to take care of ourselves, we want to be nutritious. Rather than doing that, we want something to help them to take actions. Sorry. Yeah. So our mission statement is to end food insecurity on college campuses by providing hungry students with access to affordable and nutritious meals. And our brand purpose is to help companies connect with food insecure students on college campuses. So this is our logo, brand logo, and we are using one primary color and the light blue with the secondary color. Yeah, and this is.
So why did you change to Fill 'em Up?
It's because when we talked to the customers and when we did our research, we found out that our main focus should be on the students who are more food insecure rather than just trying to find out the solution for food wastage.
Okay.
So that's why we changed from that to this one.
So the one thing I generally have learned, and I've tried it, is being very careful about not having grammatical errors in company names.
Yeah.
So like that's more of like, it's like fill 'em up, it's sort of like it's like kind of like a casual saying. So like I would almost want to see it be like fill up or fill me up or something like that. Like it's fill 'em up it's not like, I don't think it's proper grammar, Carl.
It's a colloquialism. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'd consider that, especially for like copywriting and web searching, because if you put this in, it'll probably try to correct it, right? Like if you put it into Google or put it into Word, does it try to correct it? Or you put Grammarly probably tries to correct this every time, right?
Okay. No.
Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, it does.
So like fill up maybe something, I mean, that's the only thing that like, I think it's cute, and even then if I was doing it, I'd probably do it like apostrophe or something between the film, or I'd almost make it its own word in a sense, because it kind of just, it kind of reads weird. Now your mission statement's perfect.
All right.
Yeah, like it's dead on. And not to continue just bringing up other news stories. There was a story 2 days ago about how many college students are food insecure.
Yeah.
So just, I mean, I think it was, the only place I get news is NPR. So I'm sure it was on NPR, either NPR or yeah, I think it was NPR. So I would look it up because, you're right where you need to be. And it's an issue right now. And I think everything else looks good to me. I think the mission statement's super clear. I think it's really like, sorting the name out and thinking it through a little bit should just be considered. Carl?
Yeah, I mean, there's a real need for this, like Peter said. And what I was going to suggest is when you go out to find further connections and research for this, I can put you in touch with my colleague Jasmine Cuffey, who runs the food insecurity program at Pratt, because I think that she would be a great person for you to talk to as you're developing this program.
Yeah. Yes, please.
Yeah, and the next thing we're talking about is MVPs. How do you test launch something? What does it cost? And minimum viable product. And like that's, we're talking about lean MVPs, and we already heard Geotag talking about it. So it's going to be one of those things where like, if you can test this on Pratt campus, I mean, so many students pitch me ideas that work really well in the college ecosystem because that is an immediate need that they see. And I'm always like, this is great because you're in college. It's a great time to test it, So, without using the most obvious elephant in the room of Facebook saying, we're on college campuses, we're only going to launch to college kids. It's a great test bed, and it's like you have a sort of an audience that you can immediately address. And in New York City, we have enough colleges locally that you can test it at one and expand to another and another. So you can start very small and see what works and what doesn't, and then try it somewhere else and see if it still works. So, I think you're in a good place. I just, fill them up is just sort of, I get where you're going, but I also like, I also kind of feel, maybe like, I don't know, if I was like a student that was food insecure, and I was having, and like someone came to me like, I got this business, fill them up and I'll get you food. I'd be like, kind of sounds more like what you say to a gas station attendant. So I don't want to kill it, because go with it. There's ideas. I once put a plus sign in one of my businesses, and that did not go well. Other people use it in like sub businesses, but not as the main business name. So
yeah, a lot of the advice that we're giving is because we've learned the hard way from first doing it and then learning, oh, that didn't work. So I also, Monica, I put Jasmine's title and her contact in the chat for you. So just grab that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Good work.
Thank you.
And I also don't, I mean, maybe Evoke was right, maybe it wasn't. I mean, I don't know. I mean, naming things is a very difficult thing, and that's sort of like where Raise, did you try that at all? Did you use Raise thing at all?
Yes, we from there only we come up with this name. But maybe
also personally, I love the color scheme. That's like, it's a personal preference thing, but I love the palette that you chose.
Cool.
We want it to be very smooth and calm.
Okay. All right, next, Bear Bag.
Yeah, sorry, I took over too early.
No, it's all right. Thank you for being quick.
So
this will be our last one probably before Taras joins us.
Cool, I'll make it quick. So
yeah. No, take it. We don't want to rush you, but just letting you know.
You got 5 minutes, so you got time.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Bareback's mission is to set to help people retrieve their body parts freedom to do their desired activities, and specifically for the product. So by liberating people's hand from unnecessary labor like carrying bags, So Bareback enables people to do all other desirable tasks with their available hands while expressing themselves with a fashion language. So this is our brand DNA with some very few colors selected to represent the key emotions of a brand, which is this feeling of freedom, nature, and this humanistic feeling of emotion. Yeah.
Can you go back to your mission statement?
Yep.
Give their body parts freedom to do their desired activities. Carl, what do you think of that first line? Are you there? Carl?
Sorry, I had it on mute. My bad. Wasn't that the expression of the year, like during COVID, you're on mute?
Can you see my screen?
Yeah. Yeah, Barebag is set to help people retrieve their body parts freedom to do their desired activities. I guess if I read that tagline, I'd be like, what the heck does that mean? You know? So that's just my initial impression is I'm like,
Yeah, I mean, I'm sort of just reading it and I think it's more like, I don't know if it's like the tense, like I think it would almost be better to be like, Barebag allows you to, keep your hands free, or I don't know. It's overly wordy for something that
I think it's retrieve freedom is a very cerebral concept. It's a very like retrieve freedom. I think that's part of it, right? Like, what does that mean? Retrieve freedom, like gain, gain agency. Is that what you mean? What does freedom mean? Because freedom is such an amorphic term.
Yeah. And I know exactly what you're saying. You're saying our bag helps you carry other bags.
Right. Yeah. So I think it's maybe just like tinkering with the wording a little bit. So it's a little bit more, yeah.
Smooth. Yeah. And that's the thing is like, mission statements don't have to be overly said. Did you also use Ray's tool? Are you there? I think you might have froze.
Oh, John, I think you froze.
And you're dropping pearls of wisdom.
Sorry, I think I lost my Wi-Fi.
Yeah. We were just saying that like it's overall a little wordy and it doesn't quite, I know what your product does, and your product has a very nice, simple feature that allows you to carry bags and keep your hands free, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to think if there's like a smoother way for it to be phrased. And I also think, like I was asking, did you use Ray's BB blocks?
B-Box?
The AI tool that we gave you, to the website we gave you to try to create your mission statement?
I haven't tried that yet.
So I would consider just going into there and typing in, this is a bag that helped, and see what comes back. Because
yes,
the one nice thing about the way that software works and the way that the way it generates is it gives you a lot of different ideas. And like one of the companies that I'm with, I assigned it to my, not my staff, but the people I work with. I don't ever have a staff if I'm lucky. I signed it to the people that I worked with, and I was like, let's see what we get out of it. And like, as we were just writing in like high fidelity hearing protection for concerts, high fidelity hearing protection for noise, it was giving us really nice, clear, succinct statements that would look great at the bottom of an Instagram post, look great on the bottom of, on a header of a magazine ad. So I would definitely try to like tighten that up a little bit, because you're almost over explaining something that does something very easily. And like, I think the simplicity of the product and what it achieves should have a simplicity in the mission statement.
Got it.
Carl?
Yeah, I think that's it. You nailed it. It just seemed a little bit like what we were saying was, I think it was retrieve freedom was a very kind of like kind of poetic, kind of like amorphic like phrasing. So maybe just a little bit more like maybe you know, gives you accessibility or what, you know, just a little bit more straightforward, and that's it, you know. But I think it's a great product, and I'm excited to see how it evolves further.
Yeah,
Thanks.
and I mean, I think your logo is just beautiful. It's just spot on. That's a very clean, beautiful logo. I love the gradient. I love the how it reduces, how it has the hierarchy of both color and form in it. I think that you nailed your logo. I think, honestly, name logo, you're really tightening that up. Now I'm nitpicking over how we talk about it, you know?
Yeah.
So Taurus has just joined us. Taurus, how you doing, bud? Are you there? I see him, but I don't know if he's logging on. We are shipping a bike to
Oh.
Germany today.
Connecting to audio.
Yeah. We are currently shipping a motorcycle to Germany, which if you guys have ever dealt with international shipping, it's really interesting. But if you ever dealt with international shipping of vehicles, it's even more interesting.
Well, I remember your guy from Brew Watches that was talking about how he was paying the international fees for people until he realized he's paying 25% for to ship
Yeah.
it to people. That
He,
was
you know,
fascinating.
he made some mistakes, and now he's better for it. Hey, bud, how are you?
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Um,
Bluetooth connectivity. Should
I
I
have a
blur
que-
my
I have a-
background?
before we start, can I tell Josh that bike is ready to go?
No, they're putting on the bodywork now,
Okay,
and
okay. Just
I
text
think
me the
Monday.
minute we know, so I can make sure that they have the truck there. Sorry, guys.
Okay.
Little shop talk
Sounds good.
before we let Taurus loose.
Yeah, we're in the middle of shipping 2 bikes. So
So hey, at least
you
that
might
one goes
hear
to
some
Colorado. That's easy.
grinding in the background.
So yeah, so I want to introduce Taurus Kravchuk. We met, I guess, 7 years ago now, Taurus.
It's been a while, yeah.
Yeah, 7 years ago, and we sort of hit it off because we were both makers and entrepreneurs, and we were sort of both building things. We both had consultancies, and he connected me with one of my big clients, and then over the years, as we've launched different projects, we've chatted, and we've always sort of believed in helping young entrepreneurs and other people that want to make stuff. So Taurus was tasked with creating a class for Soho House, the creative-based community, and he asked me to get involved, and we did some teaching together. And I've always just thought Taurus has great insight on bringing anything to market, because you know, having an idea is one thing, being able to actually execute it is another. And your homework this week is going to be about figuring out what it takes to launch an MVP, a minimum viable product, and the budget behind that, and like how you test that, and then how you iterate around what you learned from building the MVP. So Taurus has built many MVPs,
Yeah.
and he's very
A lot of
skilled
them
at
is
it.
garbage,
So,
but which
What?
is kind of the idea with MVPs, that they're supposed to be garbage in many ways.
So I'm going to turn it over to you, Taurus, to introduce yourself
Cool.
further and
Yes.
let you present. And then after he presents, we'll open it up for questions or comments. And if there's any questions that I want to lead Taurus to tell you guys really cool stories about things he's done, I will do that. So Taurus, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here once again. Half of our team is from Pratt, so this is like our #1 recruiting thing. Maybe one day we'll do this in real life. They used to happen in real life at the campus, but now we're at our shop. If I could take you around on my phone, I would, but we literally, the bikes are being built right in front of me. But I'll share my screen and then flip through some slides and just kind of wing it. So if you have any questions in the middle, just raise your hand and I'll stop, because I can ramble about this for a long time. Keynote Terraform Roots. I think it's this one. Share. All right, so you can see my screen now, right? Play.
Yep, looks good.
Cool. So high level, my background is I grew up in Sweden, Stockholm, which is a country that's very or a culture that cares about sustainability, and people are very into nature and environment and so on. So that's kind of in the cultural DNA, so to speak. So for me, it's always been an interest, like what the hell are things made out of, and what is nature? How does nature convert things into matter? Before I even knew that it's going to lead me to build plant-based motorbikes. So that's a garage next to my house, 2009, where I built my first bike, and it was a 1982 Yamaha XS 400, which
Not changing slides.
it's not. Your screen's sharing is paused. Let's see, why is it paused?
Because you have something else open. There you
Hmm.
go.
What if I do this? Because I know we had this before. That's good, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
So I found this guy on Craigslist, which is kind of the or a Swedish equivalent, Craigslist, and I started tearing it apart and putting it back together, and was just fascinated with the process. Like, wow, here's a vehicle that you can sort of put your own interpretation to it. Writing, and it looked something like that, which is kind of funny because it has an American Navy sticker. And now we're building bikes in the Navy yard. They used to build ships. So it's kind of like a closed loop thing 15 years later. And then I moved to New York, Brooklyn, about 11 years ago, and spent most of my career in design and product development. So worked with probably 50 different startups, helping them bring their early napkin sketch ideas to life. Everything from brand positioning, product iterations. I've seen a lot of people come with wacky stuff that like it's dead upon even the first napkin sketch, but at least give an opportunity, like, oh, let's try to figure out if it works. And I had 6 companies of my own that also did not really work. Some of them just terrible ideas, but needless to say, I learned a ton more of what not to do and how to save yourself a lot of agony, money, and time, and try to sort of do a lot of work preemptively. But weekends, I used to spend a lot of time in the dusty shop in Brooklyn, which looked like this, where I basically learned sort of hands-on fabrication, welding, angle grinding, everything that has not to do with the world of entrepreneurship and design and business plan and startups and everything. So it was a very meditative kind of environment to be in. And just started building custom bikes. So taking old school Triumphs, BSAs from 1960s, 70s, and tearing them down, building them up again, and converting them into sort of custom bikes. So a lot of Bondo, spray paints, and that became kind of more of a hobby. And then there was this British company called Belstaff that started ordering more of these bikes. And so while Monday to Friday I was kind of in the startup tech world, I was building these machines and shipping them all over the place to LA, Tokyo, Milan. So that kind of inspired me to open up my own makerspace. So I found a spot in Park Slope where they used to sell flip-flops. So that was the when I walked in space, I'm like, oh, this looks cool. I have no idea what's it, but I'll sign a lease, and it was like a $2,000 a month thing, 8 years ago. And then we turned it in the next couple of months into a makerspace that is now called Craftsman Avenue. It's been around for about 6 years. We've probably taught thousands of people, primarily creatives, on how to learn anything, everything from woodworking to jewelry design to speaker building. And Peter taught a couple of classes there. And we had a couple of Pratt students also come in. And our ethos was basically that a lot of creatives in today's world are too focused on technology, and very few have an understanding of how to work with your hands and how to validate your idea and basically test it as quick as possible. So this was kind of a hotbed of just come by, learn how to build stuff quickly, which also provided the space for like the local motorcycle community and for us to keep building bikes and just having fun. So then I kept on building these custom bikes and continued shipping them. And at that point, there was kind of an idea started forming. Well, the way these machines were built in the 60s are very different from how we build things today, especially in technology. And I'm sure everyone here have experienced, you know, Apple pushing a new product every year, and not because you know, we have to get a new phone, but because we live in an environment where things are typically built to be replaced. And General Motors created the term plant obsolescence about 100 years ago when they realized that the cars they were making were a little bit too well made. And if people have a thing for too long, there's no business model. So the society started intentionally building things to fail. So there's no, you know, it's not a coincidence that the car warranty expires and the car fails. This is how our system works, and you can apply it on everything. And I got that insight when working on a bike that's 60 years old, and I'm like, wow, it still works? That's crazy. Why aren't we making things today that are built to be repaired? And at that point, I was kind of demotivated by technology and productivity apps and kind of this whole ecosystem of build a product, raise a bunch of money, sell it, change the world. Like that story was not. I didn't see that happening, especially in Silicon Valley. And I've gone through the route of sort of creating my own startups and raising capital, running out of money, firing people. So here was more of sort of a calling and a passion, and seeing what Tesla did in the EV space, where a company came in and said, "Hey, here's the car of the future. Like, let's do it electric and do it, you know, highly intelligent with self-driving cars and all that." I felt that there was another way to kind of revive the iconic look of a motorcycle and create a company that would sort of honor the spirit of craftsmanship, but obviously make it electric, and also take it a step further to kind of rethink the entire life cycle creation of a vehicle. And that was kind of the inception of Tarform. So it took us about 6 months to kind of figure out the blueprint of what should the company stand for. And I think the reason why most companies fail today is because there's no North Star, there's no guiding principle. You know, there is something lacking, and usually entrepreneurs start something because they see a market opportunity. Like, oh, you know, I figure out a new gadget that does something better. But very, very few spend time to figure out, why am I even doing this? What is it? Why do I wake up in the morning? And is this something I want to do for the next, you know, 5 to 10 years? And the reason why most companies fail is not because the product is bad, it's because the founder's energy and motivation runs out when they realize in 3 years, like, damn, I don't want to do this. It's so hard. And it's really hard, and there's a lot of challenges, but in the darkest moments, the only thing that's going to keep you motivated is exactly the calling, or whatever your sense of purpose is, and really realize, like, damn, I so believe in it that even, you know, the most difficult times are going to pass. So for me, Tarform was, well, how can we build an iconic brand? Can we build a vehicle that turns into an icon and not something that gets replaced easily, ends up on a landfill, and something that you can be proud of for not just 5 years, but for generations, you know, just like a Triumph from the 1960s. And kind of looking at the market of motorcycles, which is also something that very few entrepreneurs do when they start something, is to scan broadly and really do a deep dive of what does the market look like. And are you creating something that's incrementally better, or are you truly disrupting an aging market? And for us, it was such an evident thing that, oh wow, here's an outdated market. Like, when you think of motorcycles, you don't really think of the way motorcycles were perceived in the 60s, 70s with Steve McQueen and Marlon Brando. You think of this guy, right? So here was an opportunity for us to kind of reposition the motorcycle and make it cool, and make it cool from the lens of sustainability and technology, and not from loud pipes and kind of leather jackets. So that led us to sort of an inquiry, like, well, if we're making an iconic object, which is a high thing for for any design. So I'm going to make something iconic, right? Like, great, good luck. So for us, it was a worthwhile endeavor. Like, well, what is an icon? And I come from the world of design and spend endless amounts. Like, what is it that makes one thing end up in a museum and the other thing in IKEA? You know, so there's some sort of a mystical, sort of magical element to where you're more in the realm of art, but also a story. So, you know, the Land Rover is not a statement of engineering. Like this car, if anyone tried it, it's not a great car, but 70% of them are still on the road and they cost a lot of money. So they've become a collectible. Same thing, you know, Shelby Cobra, what makes this car worth 13 million is the story behind it, is how it was created. And kind of analyzing, you know, all of these what we perceived icons, which at the end of the day, you know, there's really no difference between this and a Fiat that ends up at a scrapyard. The car is made out of the same stuff, but it is that intangible value, you know, the story that we attribute to something, in combination with craftsmanship, with timeless design, all of that plays into the creative process. So that was our intention, is, you know, how do we honor something and do it using traditional methods? Because when something's made by hand, we seem to value it more than stuff being stamped out of factory. So we decided to implement a lot of this. You know, initially it was kind of a high level concept, like, well, we don't really know what to do with this, but let's just, you know, incorporate some of these principles. Going electric was an obvious choice. So for multiple reasons, no emissions, and just the consumer awareness around sustainability, and, you know, everyone's keen on reduce our carbon footprint and so on. And then started doing a deep down into electrical vehicles. And here's a photo I'm showing. 1900, there is the red circle is one car, and then the horses. And then 1913, you have one horse and a sea of cars. So the transition of how people moved around happened in a decade. And at that point, you know, the person to the left was the crazy person. Like, what the hell is this machine? We're using horses. And then suddenly everything changed. So we're kind of in the same phase of mobility, which first feels slow, but if you look at a time span of a decade, it's happening so fast. So I think now we're kind of moving towards micromobility, and, you know, I'm sure everyone tried electric assist bicycles that also came up out of nowhere, the Revels, and just sort of the death of the traditional internal combustion engine. So that felt like a perfect timing, and also something for you to reflect over. If you're creating something, how relevant is it to the world we live in today? You know, is it a thing that is kind of been around forever, and, you know, you're just doing another interpretation of, you know, the Rubik's Cube? Okay, the probability that it's going to be the next big thing is pretty small. So I would encourage you to think, is this on the verge of becoming adopted by the masses? And are you before it? Are you after it? And you can study, it's called the hype cycle, when something sort of nobody knows about it, it explodes, like blockchain, right? And then the markets get saturated, where people get too scared, it kind of goes down, it becomes uncool, and then it settles somewhere in the middle. So try to figure out where in that loop are you with whatever project idea you're working on. So I'm gonna go through this. So kind of then we after we kind of mapped out, like, okay, this is our brand vision, this is what we want to do, this is what we want the brand to stand for. What next? Obviously building the thing. And the first couple of months I just had a 3D rendering and showed the design of the bike, and went to my investor and I'm like, yeah, I'm building the motorcycle, it's the future. And they're like, cool, good job. I'm like, can I have money? I'm like, no, you can't. It's impossible. Like, you can't just start building a vehicle from scratch with no resources, no funding in the garage in Brooklyn. I'm like, well, I think I can. I have like $5,000 in my account. That should be enough, right? So I hired a mechanical engineer out of school, paid him like $2,000, and we literally started, doing blueprints for a frame. I started reaching out to my friends who are building custom bikes here in Brooklyn, and we just started. So I had no idea how long it would take for us to build the first prototype, but sort of the naive belief and ignorance that if we just get going, we're going to start generating momentum and show people that, well, we're doing it. Whether you want to be part of this or not, do it. And I think it's also a massive thing for a lot of entrepreneurs that they're just waiting for someone to write them a check to get started. And usually the excuse is, oh, well, I don't have enough resources. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough capital. My team is not there. And you can create a list of infinite reasons where you don't have. In our case, well, I had a welding machine. That's something. I had an angle grinder. I had a space. Even though it was 0.1% of what we actually needed to get to the point. In my world, I'm like, that's plenty. So let's get going. And basically, like, we didn't even have a CAD model. Or I had the design, and I knew I used to meet Kano, who's a local fabricant, and just go to his shop and like shape metal and kind of cobble this thing together. And then in a few months, one of my previous investors saw that, oh, these guys are actually doing stuff. So he invested $50,000. And at that point, I'm like, what? $50,000? That's insane. That's like more money than we ever need to build a prototype. So that obviously started generating more and more momentum. I was able to bring in 2 more people, an electrical engineer, a mechanical engineer. And then fast forward 2 years of just relentless living at that shop, trying to, 3D print this thing, and whatever it takes to kind of build the first two prototypes. And then we joined an incubator
Can I
called
pause
Nulab.
you right there? Because as we talk about MVPs, I think there's a really interesting story about how you ended up building 2 prototypes instead of 1.
Yeah. Why? Let me think. Do I
Because
remember
of
why?
UPS.
Oh, yeah. So the frame was kind of this thing was an important thing. And eventually we outsourced it to a company in LA. And the frame cost us about $11,000 to make. So when you have an investment of 50,000, spending 20% on one component is a big cost. And one of the frames was finished, and it was shipped from LA to New York, and it just got lost in the mail. So UPS just dropped a big crate somewhere, and we had to spend another $11,000 to make another frame. And then 3 months later, we get the frame, we start building a bike, and then the second frame arrives. And so now we have 2 frames. I'm like, well, we might as well build 2 bikes. And thinking that the frame is kind of the main thing, which it wasn't. But in hindsight, one of our engineers said, when you build something for the first time, especially in the world of prototyping, 1 is 0 and 2 is 1. So always factor in that something is not going to work. And never make something once. So try to, do it. And for us, it was a huge thing because we were able to prototype and validate between these 2 bikes. So it took us 2 years to build the first 2 prototypes. And during that process, how the hell did we know that this was the right thing to do? Mainly because I had hundreds of conversations with investors to show them sort of the 3D design and rendering. And I could gauge the reaction when they were like, oh, that's cool, tell me more about this. It gave the entire team more validation that, yes, let's keep going. If we just get these bikes into the real world, we know that people are going to perceive this as something unique. So another mistake that a lot of people do is just work in complete darkness for 6 months, a year, 2 years, and they think, oh, you know what, I'm not going to share this with anyone else because it's so fragile. And during the creative process, you're also very vulnerable, and most people shut down for critique and feedback. because they're like, oh, I don't want you to see this. And I think it's key to not only show what you're working on to everybody, but really identify who do you want to show this to, and try to find relevant feedback, because a lot of people are going to give you a lot of feedback. And someone said, you know, if you ask everyone for an advice, it accounts to 0. So really try to be mindful of, like, is this a person whose feedback I value, and how do I make sure I get the right feedback to kind of support me? I
Taras,
see Carlos raised a hand. Yes, but
I have a quick question. So actually, some of the students were recently saying, "Hey, I really love my idea. I haven't tested it yet, but I'm worried, like, what, you know, how do I deal with someone stealing my idea?" And so I think you'd be a great person, since you've done this so many times. You have so much a wealth of experience. Like, what would you say to these students that have that fear?
yeah, it was a super common question. If your idea is that easy to steal, then don't do it. Don't waste your time on even pursuing it. And if it's the idea, Thomas Edison said, idea is 1%, 99% is execution and perspiration, right? So do not be worried if somebody's going to steal your idea. People just don't have time to do it. If someone is really dedicated to, like, oh my God, this is the best thing I've ever heard, I'm going to make it, it's 0.001 chance that that's actually the reality. So, but there's a fine balance of, like I mentioned before, like, ask the right people. You know, if you're asking about design, ask a person who is in design, who can give you authentic feedback. But yeah, that should not be the limiting thing of not doing something, because you're not willing to share what you're working on. So then 2 years later, we launched the bikes at New Lab, and we've kind of been working stealth. So we've only had a loose 3D rendering on our website, so people had no idea what this was. And during launch, we had 300 people, like half of the bike community, show up, and it was the first time we kind of unveiled. And at that moment, I knew, okay, we did something unique. And the TechCrunch was there, and a bunch of press and journalists. And even though these bikes were, looking back, so crude, and the day before the launch, I said, guys, we're canceling the launch. Like, we lined up all the press and media. I thought they were so badly made, and the finish was just so terrible. And I'm like, we're not doing this launch. And my whole team was like, what are you talking about? We got to do this launch. I'm like, no, this panel gap is terrible, and glue and Bondo. I mean, if you would see these bikes in comparison to what we have today, but it was enough. It was enough to show what we've built with the resources we had, and get people to start dreaming, to say, wow, if we could cobble this together, and, you know, and with no resources, with a small team in Brooklyn, what's the next step? And it just gave us huge momentum, and we started getting pre-orders and features, like, here's this new company out of Brooklyn making electric motorcycles. Now, also, there was a lot of hate from the motorcycle community, of, like, the real builders, and they're like, what the hell is this thing? Like, look at the poor craftsmanship. And and I remember there was the day after the launch, like 99% comments on our Instagram, like, oh my God, this is amazing. And there was one motorcycle designer who's like, this is garbage. And I'm like, oh, damn. Yeah. And then I email him, like, did you see his comment? Like, are you sure that we're on the right track? And my team's like, so normally we focus on the negative feedback, right? So again, try to find a balance, and disassociate yourself from your work, which is a huge part, because it's so easy to take it personally, that, you know, your creation, this is your baby, and if something doesn't go right, like, find ways to learn from it. And even in the worst feedback, there is an element of truth, and just keep at it. So after these 2 years,
I wanted to share one short story about that debut, because if you remember, you know, it was like 3 days before the debut, and I was like, hey, you mind stopping into my class and presenting? And you came in, and you had, like, bags under your eyes, and you presented very amazingly of like how to create a good pitch deck. And you're like, you come into the debut, and I remember being like, yeah, you're like, I haven't slept in days. It's debuting in 2 days. And I remember even getting to the debut, and you just looked exhausted, and you had to get up and speak. And you're like, it's an
Yeah, it
electric
was-
motorcycle. I'm going to turn it on. And people just went nuts. Like they went wild for it.
Yeah, it was a good moment, man. I miss those days. It's completely different today when we're managing inventory and logistics. Where nice to go down memory lane. So validation, we've built our MVP basically. And we had no idea what it would take to go from this rough, barely working prototype to a manufacturable bike that we would safely put on the streets. And in my mind, I'm like, oh, we're almost there. If it took us 2 years to build a prototype, maybe we need another 6 to 8 months to build a bike that we're actually shipping to the customer. I was off by 3 years. So it took us 3.5 years to do that journey. And then a few months after the release, we got an email from the Peterson Museum, which is, if you're in the automotive world, this is kind of like the most prestigious automotive museum you can ever imagine. And they were putting on a show called the Electric Revolution, where they were showing the best production electric bikes. Harley Davidson was there. So we had an opportunity to present the bikes there. And funnily enough, the bike ended up next to the Shelby Cobra, the iconic. And that gave me validation. I'm like, oh, cool, interesting. So the decisions that we made, 3 years ago of what the foundation of Tarform would be, kind of attracted itself, which was a huge thing. Like, okay, you're on the right track. Just keep doing it. So maybe Tarform will be worth $11 million next to Cobra in a couple of years, which was later shaped the bikes that we're building today. So during that entire process, the environmental aspect came into a big discussion, which is kind of addressing the creation of the product. So not just putting a battery into a bike and making it zero emission, but how do we look at the whole life cycle? And a lot of that was also driven by us being in the shop and working with toxic glues and paints. And I was literally painting for months and coming home and like I couldn't breathe. My hands were destroyed, and I'm like, there's got to be a better way to make this. Like, is there a way to move away from all the toxic paints and primers and materials we use? So we started sourcing a bunch of plant-based materials, and the more we sort of mapped out the landscape of sustainability, understanding how toxic the automotive industry is, with the plastics industry, that became a very sort of a big part of our narrative of this is not just a electric motorcycle, but the way we're addressing the manufacturing was an important part for us. And also being quite surprised that this is something that that a lot of manufacturers also thought about way back. So in 1941, Ford made a prototype car which they called the biological car. It was made out of soybean, flax, and it weighed 1,000 pounds less than a steel car. But then the steel industry and the petroleum industry said, that's cute, we don't want that. Let's just keep manufacturing, making things, mass market. So and partially that inspired us and say, well, let's go back and revisit that. Can we make plant-based components? Can we make natural biodegradable? So this was our first prototype that I still show pretty much every demo we do, and it's made out of flaxseed fiber weave, and then the black pigment you see is algae carbon. And after the first prototype, we sort of figured, okay, here's a cool way to make plant-based parts for the motorcycle, and can we ultimately build a bike that's fully either biodegradable, recyclable? A little bit of the sort of the craftsmanship approach. So in the 20s, coach builders They didn't have any sophisticated tools, so a lot of the bodywork was literally hammered and shaped with the hammers and specific tools like English wheel and so on. So kind of the idea was bring an element of that into a modern bike. So we wanted to use hand-shaped bodywork, created a walnut buck out of a bunch of pieces, and then that was the process. We made the bodywork, and then later we realized this is so difficult to scale, and we still have one of our most challenging components is actually this piece of aluminum. So you would imagine it would be like the battery or any of the technological things, but it's yeah, a 80-year-old process that's no longer, you know, it's outdated for a reason. But we felt like it's an important element to kind of bridge that world of old school craft with future tech. So we still try to stay true to that, but we slowly begin replacing it with other materials. A bunch of prototyping also. We tried 3D printing with all kinds of bioplastic and hemp and cornstarch, and still try, whenever we get an opportunity to replace traditional materials, usually plastics, with something alternative, we pursue that route. And then still during sort of the going from a prototype to a vehicle, that took us 3 years. During that process, we kept on telling our story and then getting more and more validation throughout. So New York Times did an article talking about, you know, our bio-based materials and so on. So we always had kind of a conversation with the market and the consumers to make sure that we're on the right track. So without spending too much time and effort going in the wrong direction, it was almost, you know, you're pinging like, oh, does this idea resonate with the potential customers, investors, and so on. So a big lesson to, yes, stay true to your values, but also kind of the way I look at it is surfing the wave of cultural relevance and try to be on top of it. And sometimes we made the wrong decisions where we figured out, oh, the more eco alternative was actually not more eco alternative. And then you have to quickly sort of pivot and say, well, there's new research that this is actually more destructive, and not kind of, you know, anchor into one set of beliefs. And then getting design awards, all that kind of stuff was obviously confirmed that, okay, let's keep doing this. And then last year we shipped the very first bike, which we call the Tarfon Founder Edition. So the way to think about it is kind of what Tesla did with the Tesla Roadster, where they built a limited edition luxury, their first sort of serious luxury vehicle. So we wanted to follow the same route and build 54 limited edition Founder Editions. And the first bike went to a Barber collection, which is like the craziest automotive collection in Birmingham, Alabama, which was also another confirmation like, okay, so this bike is already an icon and we haven't even shipped any. So 5 years later, we also had Lewis Hamilton on the bike. And kind of looking back to the very first, you know, welded frame in the back of the shop, and then having the best athlete in the world riding your bike is still a trippy experience. And you know, in an infinity of lessons learned along the way, and we still have tons of challenges, but we definitely wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the value of like, why are we doing this? And do we really want to make something that's long lasting? And even if all fails, can we say with, you know, full honesty and integrity that we did the best we could to that point and not compromise the initial vision? So that would be kind of my key takeaway, that, you know, if you want to embark on your entrepreneurial journey and convert ideas into matter, is it something that you really want to do? And maybe it's not, and it's fine, but then at least, you know, you've kind of gone through that journey and say, I'll try it for 6 months. If it doesn't work, there's always a lesson in anything. And also like try to even replace the word, and Peter, maybe, I don't know if you noticed, but in years, I've never ever said that we have a problem. I always say we have a challenge, and it changes the context of everything you do, because if you have a problem, you're falling into a completely different mindset. So there's a lot of, like mindset things of how do you get through different aspects, but failure is not a failure, it's just a lesson. And at the end, I think has very little to do with the product you're making or the market, but it's like, do you have the mental and psychological tools to get through all of these hurdles? And they're going to be an infinity of them, but it's worth it.
Do you want to talk a little bit about, so the one thing before I turn over to students, I would like you to talk a little bit about, so you showed the prototypes that were built at Craftsman, and then you showed our production bike. Do you want to talk a little bit about that space in between the first MVP and then sort of that beta production model that you guys essentially built during COVID by yourselves, you and Curtis in the garage, and then like what you took from that to then go build the next bike? Because we made, I mean, we were making massive changes as we were running to production.
Yes. So this bike was our first street legal pre-production prototype. So after the sort of the janky looking bikes, it took us 2 years to build this bike, where we basically had to re-engineer everything. And after the prototype, I had to hire a good engineer. And this guy comes in, he looks at those 2 early prototypes, and he's like, what the hell is this? There's no way you're putting these on the road. I'm like, yeah, are you sure? We spent 2 years building this. He's like, no. And basically blank slate approach. And it was a big like, oh shit, what have I promised people? Because at that point we had hundreds of reservations, and we put a launch date on our website, like Tarform starts shipping 2019. And but there's no way we could rush to it, because this is a vehicle. Like there's no way we're giving this to the hands of people without having 100% confidence that this is a safe machine. And we basically had to redo the entire journey of going from prototype to this bike. But we wouldn't be here if we didn't do the first 2 prototypes, because those 2 prototypes informed all the decisions that came to follow. And the lesson was, there is really no shortcuts. That what a lot of people do is they outsource the creation of something. They say, oh, this company is just going to do the prototype for me. I think it's essential to really get into the weeds and understand what are you working on. What's the materials, what's the fabrication method. Maybe it's not your passion, but it's gonna make you it's gonna drive your decisions better, and also you're gonna be able to communicate with everyone who's involved, so you give them the proper briefs. And I didn't know any terminology like in the electrical world, so I spent just months on YouTube understanding, like, well, if I need to find this person, I need to understand what kind of skills this person has, and that's a very important thing. So basically, we built this bike, and
can you show, do you have the Scrambler, the original silver one with the old bodywork on it? Because I think that's a really interesting thing to talk about. Is this
guy.
So this, we built this fully built, ready. This was like our proof of concept, and people got on it, and it was too long, it was too tall, and the bodywork, if you look closely at the bodywork and the shock position and everything, wasn't where it needed to be. So Taurus and our engineer during the pandemic, just those 2 built this bike. We
had no option. COVID came, and we had to send people home, and the company ran out of money. So I asked our main guy, like, dude, I don't know if what's up with this pandemic, but the only thing we have control over is to build a bike. And we had hundreds of parts. we had all, so we quarantined, built this thing, relaunched it, and the press started going like, oh, Tarform is launching a new bike. I'm like, no, we're launching a V-bike. We just did so many changes that it barely looks like the other bike. So yeah, but even after we got this bike road legal and certified, we still realize it's really not there yet, and spent another year and a half going through iterations.
And this was
and-
with me saying, hey, if we want to meet this deadline that we have set, we can't do that. We got to trigger this. And Taras just said, no, it's not right. And now showed the cafe again. And if you look at the difference in the body panels, that was essentially a design sprint that was ordered, to make this more fluid and more in the language of what we were looking for. So there's balance, right?
Yeah, and it's a difficult balance, and sometimes you need to make a compromise, but some things you can't. Like there were some nights I woke up, I'm like, shit, we paid for the small, but we got to redesign the part. And like, it wouldn't feel good if we shipped it without. So it's a constant, pick your battles kind of thing. And it's still not, it hasn't ended. Like there are tons of stuff we are still iterating and redesigning on. But I think that obsessive attention to detail, it's a double-edged sword. And you really have to figure out what is it that matters to you, but also to your customer. And sometimes you're like, you know what, 99% of people are not going to care about this. Am I willing to spend another 4 months polishing this thing? And it's with anything you do. There perfection doesn't exist, but it's for you to identify where is good enough. But I would say in today's society, people usually launch something way too early when it's just crap. And that's if we go back to the MVP thing, a lot of MVPs fail because they're just garbage. So you're not going to learn from it, right? You're like, oh shit, my product sucks. Well, maybe it wasn't good enough. Maybe your MVP, maybe make it not the minimum viable product, but like somewhat functional. I don't have a clear answer to that, but I think that's where the continuous feedback comes in, where people say, oh, cool, I would actually use this. Like, oh, nice. If most people say, I don't understand what this is, then put a little bit more work to it.
Finn, you have a question?
Pretty much.
Yeah, I'm going to open it up to you guys for questions about
Yes, let's go.
everything that Taras went around. So,
Yes, definitely. So first of all, Taras, I want to say thank you. You've converted me from bikes
Nice.
to motorcycles. But yeah, no, I see what you're saying about having the why at your core of the business, and that's kind of what we just did for our homework. It's like, I don't ride motorcycles. I don't really keep up with this culture, but you've definitely captivated me and kept my attention. And I just want to say,
thank you.
yes, thank you for that. And what's next for Tarform? Like you've made a bike, you seem to have like a pretty cult following. What do you do now?
So we're in this phase, like the valley of death, as they call it in startup, where you have a product, you validated that it works, you're kind of shipping, but you're not profitable, nor have you have everything ready to scale. So we shipped 12 bikes around the United States. This year, we want to bring about 50 bikes to market. Our problem is because we weren't willing to compromise on the materials, we lose money per bike that rolls out of Brooklyn. So this bike costs us in materials alone $40,000 to build today, and we sell them for about the same price. So we got a long way to convince our investors to say, look, this is not just a beautiful bike and we're creating a new industry, it's also a profitable business, which is a very important thing in creating a company. And my mistake that I've learned is for years, I'm like, forget about the business model. If we just build the best possible motorcycle we can, the money will come later, people will pay for it. While maybe 3 years ago, I should have really looked at the cost of making this thing and figuring out, well, is this actually a profitable thing? And if it's not, is there something we can tweak? So we set the price for this bike at $18,000. And then after we built the first prototype, we're like, oh, this is a $50,000 bike. So all the people that were expecting us to launch an $18,000 bike suddenly looking at a 3x price, which made us change our brand story and positioning to not just be like, you know, a semi-affordable bike, to being a luxury vehicle. And that's still something we're going through today, where a lot of people are like, what, $50,000 for a bike? Because they don't see the behind it. They don't see all the, you know, handmade in Brooklyn. And for most people, it's a lot of money for a motorcycle. So we're in the space to try to convince investors like, well, this is our first step. You know, we just need to start ramping up our production so we can source in volumes and start dropping our price. But then we're also getting some advice of increase the bike to $100,000. Like, this is not a commuter. This is a piece of art, and do low volume. So be the Bentleys of motorcycles, not the Porsche of motorcycles.
Right.
And we're right in the middle there, trying to figure out, you know, what is a good business decision? Because we know we have a great product, people love it. It's finding that, you know, the cash flow part. But the big picture is to look at mobility as a lifestyle. So not just do motorcycles, we want to do other vehicles, and we're going to tease with a concept in the near future. But still apply the principles. So sort of beauty of getting around, and, you know, you're feeling, because a motorcycle is such a intimate you know, relationship to a product. It's not a passive thing that you're in the back of a car. So how do we take that experience and do it through other forms?
Lovely. I have one more question, and that is your logo. It looks very clean and polished. Is there a story behind that? I'm a big design guy, so I gotta ask.
So Tarform in Swedish means something that takes shape. And it's a verb which literally means take form, and it plays on the name that nothing is in a state of completion, everything is in a state of continuous evolution, which also plays into the aspect of modularity of the bike, that the way we design is that you can keep upgrading the aesthetics, so you can swap the bodywork, and you got in the back you see a scrambler, which is basically the same bike but slightly different aesthetics. And you can keep upgrading the battery pack. So designed for longevity and not replacement.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
And on the logo part, it's funny. So this is the logo. It's individual 3D printed letters. And the logo is, how much is it, Peter? 300.
Each logo is 22. Each letter is $22.
So we got a lot of work to do in reducing costs on that.
And die casting, they're $2 each.
Nice. Cool.
Does anyone else have questions about any of this process? Hello, anyone?
This is a chat.
Is there anything in the chat? Yeah, is there any? I'm on the chat. I'm just so. Does anyone have any questions about? So I wanted to bring up. There's a couple things that you said that I just wanted you to like. So when you were talking about North Star and using the word icon, because, you know, people can call themselves an icon all they want, but it's not really you that gets to call yourself an icon. It's like, you know, you like when we talk about, well, if we talk about IP, there's a certain term for certain trademarks and copyrights called trade dress, which means you've been using it so long that it's become iconic. You know, even if you don't have a copyright on your design, it is already an iconic design. And there's, you know, certain French bag manufacturers that don't need to copyright the shape of their bags, because they can literally claim, you know, if someone tries to knock them off, they can say, our bag's iconic, it's been around so long. So like, I thought it was interesting when you brought that up, designing for an icon and using a North Star to do it. Can you just like, when you wrote that mission statement, how much has it changed from the time you started to now?
A lot. But I think the inception has always been the same, is, you know, looking at those classic mid-century bikes and constantly asking the question, like, what is it that makes it feel timeless? Is there some universal formula? You know, why is it a coincidence that the things from the 60s, mid-century that we've seen that seemed to capture some sort of a timelessness and elegance to it. Without at that point being able to convert it into words or mission or vision statement, it was more like a feeling, you know. And you walk past a beautiful car, you stop and you look at it, right? And you don't really know what is it about it. But that inquiry and trying to identify, like, is it the lines? Is it the stance? So for me, it was everything. And like, well, this bike has that, and it seems to be repeated in the bikes in the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. Is there something, some sort of element or essence I can extract from that and put it into this bike? That when people look at it, they're like, it's kind of retro, but it's kind of futuristic. Like, what does that mean, right? It has an element of the past, but also an element that it's going somewhere. And it's absolutely not to me to decide, is this a timeless design? We'll see in 20, 30 years. But the intention behind this design was to create something that does not feel like it belongs into a particular generation of vehicle design. And if you look at a vehicle design, you can quickly say that that's from 2000, that's from the 90s, that's from the 80s, right? There are very few vehicles that endured the test of time, like a Porsche 911. You know, it still kind of has its own thing. And if you look at a Porsche 911 from the 60s versus today, two very different cars, but everyone would say it's a 911. And that was kind of the design and intention behind it. So we'll see.
The other question that I had, and this is actually something I was telling a class yesterday that I was speaking at, was about positioning yourself as an expert. So, you know, you knew how to build an IC motorcycle, but you knew nothing about electric vehicles. And, you know, when I was like, I remember when I first started working, I was like, how the hell did you learn all this? And you were like, I just literally watched YouTube videos. So can you talk a little bit about like how important it is to position yourself as an expert and learn about your enough about your subject matter that you can like get through it?
Yeah, not at all. I mean, the experts are great in a particular field, but they also they have a very firm you know, understanding about their field that many times prevents you from seeing things from a different perspective. And I think the magic is that gap between seemingly unrelated fields. So, and like the Venn diagram, when I was kind of puzzling together, I looked at art and then technology and ecology and what's happening in between. You know, what happens in the art world versus what happens in the technology world. And they're two very different things. And for example, we don't perceive technology as art. And why not? Because the cultural story about technology, that it's you know, it doesn't last long, we toss it, and art typically preserves value. So for us, it was a challenge. Well, here's a technological product, but how do we instill a sense of art into it to not make it feel like a disposable battery? And in between that, it was so many different ways to spin it, you know. And I'm like, well, what if we bring back 80-year-old craftsmanship that suddenly people look at the bodywork and are like, wow, this feels authentic, and they don't think about the battery that's inside of it, you know? And if we were to take the expected approach from like the EV experts, they would say this is craziness. Why the hell would you ever want to use this manufacturing method? And I had no idea about manufacturing methods. I wasn't arriving at it from a logical decision, but more from like a curious standpoint, like why not? So I'd say it's 100 times more beneficial for you to ask the question, why not? Just because something has been done for a certain amount of time, it doesn't mean it's the right way to do it. And there are really no rules to this thing. But go and seek out the answers for yourself. And YouTube has a lot of stuff.
Yeah, that's so clear. And I think one of the things that you and I both have experienced while I've been helping and working with you is when we go and talk to these old school automotive guys, and they're like, well, why would you do it like this? You know, don't you want to design these things to fall apart? Or, well, you know, why would you design something to last so long? And we're like, It's because it's only what's right, you know? So,
Yes.
you know, it's like some people in the industry look at us like we're crazy for just wanting to make something that lasts a long time.
Yeah, there's a lot of eyebrows. Like, did you see what these guys are doing? But I love it because it really, it also makes them question, like, oh, maybe there are other ways to do things. And that opens up their mind. And then you kind of get into this like, oh, let's explore.
Yeah. All right, so I'm gonna open up one more time. Anyone else have any questions for Taurus before we let him go and get back to getting bikes out the door?
I want to know, how were you managing the financial part?
By talking to a lot of people and selling the dream. So we have about 50 investors, which means that I've spoken to probably 1,000 people at the very least. So in between doing this, it's basically, hey, can we get on a call? And I'll, you know, so endless hustle and not getting hurt by no's.
Yep. You're gonna hear a lot of no's before you hear a yes.
Right.
One more question before we let Taurus go, anyone? All right, Bud, thank you
Cool.
very much.
Thank you,
I will
guys.
talk
Taurus,
to you
I have
tomorrow.
one more thing before we
Oh,
go.
okay,
One more
hop in
thing.
quick.
Yes, Finn, go ahead.
As a bunch of college students here, spending a lot of our time doing art and not riding motorcycles, sadly, how can we be a part of Taurus and maybe pick up some cool hats or something like that?
Oh yeah,
And swag,
merch,
yeah.
Taurus, merch.
Merch. Well, you can make some t-shirts for us. We don't have time to to do embroidery on but I mean whatever, it's you know, come by and help us sort inventory. I'm sure Peter can list 50 things we need help with.
Yeah, if you're interested, Finn, you know, we can have you come by the Navy Yard. We're really close to Pratt, and we're always looking for help. So, you know, as Taurus said, we have a lot of Pratt students already working with us because of my connection to Pratt and my connection to the company. And, you know, we're always willing to have people come by and take a look at what we're doing because we're really excited to show off that we're doing things so differently, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
Cool, man. All right,
Cool.
Bud,
Cool.
thank you so much.
Guys,
Give him a
Thank
round
you
thanks
of
so
so
applause.
much.
much. This
Peter,
was,
Carlos, thank you.
that was fantastic and inspirational.
Thank you. Talk to you soon. Good luck.
Later, bud.
Bye.
All right, so Carl, do we want to take a 5-minute, 8-minute back at 7:10 bio break?
I think we need a break just to process that, because that, like, literally I was taking notes on you know, life lessons. You know, it was almost like a philosophy class. It was really awesome, and it was coming from such a genuine place of, man, I have like experienced so many like failures and whatever, and then fine-tuned it and just learned how to deal with it. So I honestly, for me, I think I need to process it for about 6 minutes or so.
Well, let's come back 7:10 and we'll pick up with who we haven't been, and then we'll jump into what the homework is, okay?
See you all
Sounds
soon.
good.
Hey, bud.
Hey, Peter. If you have a minute, I wanted to ask you about Ignite versus PechaKucha. And recommend, because I noticed on your description for the case study, it has the PechaKucha in there, and then in the body it had the.
Oh, yeah, I meant to change it over this semester.
Okay, but do you think, I was wondering which one. I haven't sent the homework out tonight, but
I'm trying Ignite this semester, and here's the reason why. I've noticed students generally go over on slides. So like getting people to just present 10 slides seems difficult, especially when they're just visual. So in the 30 seconds per slide, I think it's easier if they can talk.
You think it's actually easier to do Ignite? I was worried that Ignite would be more difficult, but it's actually easier because
that's my theory.
Got it. Okay.
I mean, Tars just presented 50 slides talking about 15 seconds.
It's almost no text. Yeah.
That's what I was mentioning to you. So I think it gives them, I mean, I'm trying Ignite this year. I've done PechaKucha before. Getting students to understand the presentation format's a little tough. If they've never done it before, but like this is the first time they do it, so we see what comes back and then we talk about it. You know.
Okay, great. I'll recommend Ignite as well then.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah, it was Anita pushed Ignite on me, and I was like, oh, I like that. So
cool.
Madison, Mia, are you guys in New York right now?
Yes, I just arrived 2 days ago.
Nice. It didn't look as warm.
Yeah, but I was in Austria before anyway, so it's definitely not warm there either. Okay, I'm just gonna go ahead and
give me 1 second. Can we get a show of hands? Is everyone kind of popping back in here? Who's back? Is everyone back? Slowly, we got people. There we go. People popping back in. Cool.
Like seeing those thumbs up, guys. It's very helpful to see that
Yeah.
you're engaged. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you, guys. Are you raising your hand? Someone? No? Yeah.
Oh, no, it's just that I'm here.
Oh, gotcha. All right. You guys, dear creators, have the floor.
Yep, sharing my screen. Okay, I always forget which, oh, there. Sorry. Okay, hello everyone. This is Dear Creators here. Our slogan is good things come to those who create. Just sharing that positive energy that we want for that people to feel with our brand. As a reminder, Dear Creators is a social media platform almost for all types of creatives to collaborate financially and also just to meet other creatives in the field. For our vision and mission, yes, we have used the AI platform as a starting point and then built on top of it. Our vision is a future where every creative has the opportunity and community to thrive in. And our mission statement is to provide artists with a collaborative space where they can find tools and resources they need to be successful.
And then for our brand guides, we really want to give off the identity of being very friendly and playful and inviting. With our fonts, we want to have a combination of a classic look, but then also like classic and dainty, but then also circle back to the playfulness and have a little bit more of a unique use of text with our logo, and then translating it back into special uses as well. And then because this is an app, we also really wanted to tie back into like an image that can be more memorable, not just our words. So we are playing with using the comma in the end of our text, and then also having like a visual embrace as something that we want to portray as well.
To be honest, the one thing we didn't get to do was to test this icon. We do want to see what people would think. In terms of like which association helps with our brand more.
Cool. And I mean, you guys are pretty far along because you kind of already were piloting this program and you're kind of just refining it now. So I would just kind of like to hear about, since you've already kind of done some MVPs and done some test groups and test studies of the idea, now that you're kind of refining it more, how did you find working with the AI tool and all that to like really clear, because your statement's very tight and clear now.
Yeah, it was definitely interesting because we realized that our previous statements that we always worked on that we had on our previous website, they were so long and we just wanted to make it like more concise and straight to the point. And we were surprised that the AI was like so much shorter than what we were used to.
It's really condensed.
Yeah, but I kind of like it because I like it straightforward. There's no room for like too much interpretation and like trying to associate ourselves with too many things at once, maybe.
Yeah, the slogan, good things come to those who create. Is that new as well?
No, we have had that slogan
Okay.
since the very first presentation, I think.
Yeah, I couldn't remember it, but that's fantastic. So, yeah, I think this is great, guys. I don't have a lot of comments. I think you're nailing everything you're aiming to nail. So, Carl.
Yeah, I guess just the question that I go to is who do you think is your biggest competition and how do you create distinction from that entity?
Okay, this is a great question because as I don't know if you remember our competitive market research, there isn't really companies that have found any type of success with what we have do. Like their market is super small. So our main competition I genuinely see as the bigger social media platforms where creative people currently use to network, such as
Like
Instagram
Instagram.
and
Okay.
TikTok. Yeah, LinkedIn, we established in our research that many of our connections did not use. So it's definitely gonna be our biggest challenge to force people out of what they're used to, I think. What makes us different though is that we're niching it down to specifically creative needs, you know, so that people aren't just trying to find each other in a giant pool, but it's more targeted research and to find these opportunities in your region.
Great.
Yeah, very nice. Good job. Didn't you just become famous on TikTok?
Wait, why? What happened?
I mean,
No, I'm definitely not
Wow, so I kinda know what
famous.
she's up to.
I'm surprised you know.
I just saw it go by. I'm like, was that 1 million views?
I had, I think, 12 million views in the last month or something.
What?
Yeah, with various videos, but it's yeah, it's fun.
Okay, I'm just saying, maybe you can use that to drive them to this.
I'm definitely trying.
Yeah, 'cause
I'm
that's
trying
the
to
thing,
build
is
up
like
to it.
use that, you know, we talk about crowd and creating community and like how do you reach people? And one of my running jokes is always like, are any of you internet famous? Because that'll help a lot, you know.
Well,
So
we don't really mention this, but we happen to have a lot of friends who are internet famous in the
Yeah.
creative field.
use
Like,
them.
So
Use
once
them.
we move further with this, we definitely plan on using
Like Dear Creators initially started with me, Bodisum, and a third person who is like actually like an influencer.
There you go. Lean on your resources. You know, your network equals net worth. So
And it just makes me think of our speaker, Woj, you know, and how he really brought that product to prominence and stuff through that.
So, all right, good job.
Thank you.
All right, next one, Singularity.
Hi, oh yeah, just a reminder, my project is about, well, my idea is about establishing like a place that artists can list their creations on, mainly focusing on like ceramic works. And like the idea is to branch out to other mediums after, but sorry if my Wi-Fi isn't the best.
It's all right, just go through it.
Singularity. So my mission statement is Singularity presents a curated selection of handcrafted art pieces. Our online store hopes to honor the artistic process by documenting each artist and maker through a personal page. And this is the logo that I've made so far, but I'm not very like satisfied with it somehow. because of various reasons. And then the one-liner I came up with was like your collection of solitary desires. And for my color palette, I'm actually using it in this slide, but there's basically like 2 colors that I primarily use, and then the rest are just like for various like detailing and stuff. And then these are the 2 fonts that I kind of plan on using. So one is like a serif font, and it's more like ornamental for like titles and stuff. And Montserrat is basically like a sans font, so it's more readable. And sorry, I don't have my camera on. It like makes my entire Zoom just like
No
get
worries.
destroyed.
No worries. I think it all looks pretty good. I mean, I think the logo still needs a little work because it's going to be hard to translate that across a lot of places. You know, because it's kind of hard, you know, I read sing and then Laerty, and I could lose the U, and it's hard to translate it, you know, across multiple forms. And also I think there's an element of like not wanting to confuse it with a singing or vocal or something like that, you know. So could you kind of highlight sing, and that part of it makes it a little difficult. Carl?
Yeah, it's exactly what I was gonna say is like, you know, it looks great. It's just that the sing thing makes me think it's like a vocal, you know, vocal thing or coach or whatever. So like it almost, to me, it looks like sing in clarity. So like helping you clearly sing, something like that, just at a glance. But I'm excited to see
Okay.
where this develops.
Okay, thank you.
I would like to see some examples of the artist pages, just like visual mock-ups of like how the artist pages work to highlight their work. I mean, and this is what we're moving into, is like, how do you show an MVP when you don't have anything built? And apps and websites, it's sort of like mocking up like, you know, screens or like what the screens are like, or what the flow is going to be like, or what, you know, your interface is going to be like. So we kind of can start seeing like, how do we interact with this in a digital landscape, you know?
Okay, thank you. That's
All right.
really helpful.
Very nice, thank you. Café Le Serroir.
You can hear me?
Yes.
Okay. For a city that never sleeps, the amount of places you can go when it's late at night in New York City doesn't really live up to its name. It's pretty much down to 2 places, clubs and bars. But what if you don't drink? Or what if you were just out and now need a quiet place to wind down? Or you're a night owl who's always looking for a nice place to study or work. Maybe you just simply appreciate a nice shop that serves both coffee and tea. Café Le Soir is a charming and calming late night coffee shop that opens from 7 p.m. to 3 a.m., offering drinks, snacks, and low stimulation activities for a quiet yet inspiring atmosphere. What's unique about us is our reimagination of urban space. Instead of opening another new space in the overcrowded city, we want to establish agreements with local shop owners to reuse their empty stores during their closing hours. The logo itself is like a lantern or night at light. The design mimics how Van Gogh draws his lights in another painting of his. It's also a metaphor wishing that our cafe can be that light for someone at night. Maybe it's a light of direction, comfort, inspiration, happiness. Let's see.
I love all the mock-ups. That's awesome.
Thank you. It is Café Le Soir is a comfortable night out, a community gathering, a perfect study work session. It's your home away from home. Thanks.
Nice. So, I mean, I'm still skeptical about people giving you their space when they're not in it and all that, but you took a lot of my skepticism and you gave me strong visuals to make me believe that this can be real. And you backed it up with a pretty darn good mission statement and pitch. So like, even though I'm skeptical, I'm starting to believe. And I think I'm starting to believe because you're giving me that visual basis for me to see that it could be real. So even though I still got a lot of questions about the mechanics of this and how it works from a business perspective, when I see this, I kind of get excited, you know?
Thank you. That means a lot.
Carl?
Yeah, to build on that, you know, it sounds kind of silly, but I want to live in that world that you've created. You know, that's my sincere like reaction is like it feels like when you know when you're having a great day in golden hour and you're like I had a great day, now I'm excited, you know, for like having a great social gathering tonight or something like that. Like it just has that quality to it. So I love that. And my big concern is, you know, it's how do you control the quality? Because there's so much unknowns when you're using used spaces, you know? And so I think that's what really gets me a little bit nervous because you could have one of these in a space that's wonderful and one that's, you know, really concerning. And so I think that whole like hit and miss prospect would have me as an investor, you know, wary. So what would you know, what do you think off the cuff from that concern?
I think we can use that to our advantage, really, because the concept itself is essentially nomadic, right? It's like pop-ups, and it can pop from store to store, and maybe depending on that specific store, we have different types of choices, whether maybe this one is more fun, more activity-based, or that one is just very quiet, low stimulation based. I think that can be exciting, like a surprise bag. You don't know which one you're going to go to tonight.
Like a pop-up. Okay. Fascinating.
But yeah, the main problem of this is just the logistical issue of actually occupying the spaces. And
yeah, and then sorry, I don't want to get too into the weeds, but I'm just intrigued, you know, like I wonder how much like each one will have a different amount of like allowing you to mock up the space, and then how much would you need to mock up the space? How would you know, deliver that with a minimal design? And yeah, so I'm really excited about how this will develop.
I think is that you start as you know, pop-up spaces, and maybe they're not even pop-up spaces of other cafes. Maybe they're empty storefronts and you kind of move in and take over for a month or something.
Or like a black box kind of thing.
Yeah, from an MVP, you know, so maybe, you know, now that I see visuals, I'm starting to believe more. I'm just, you know, I'm like, how does this work? I'm like, and like, maybe it starts as like, you know, a short-term pop-up, and you raise enough dough that you can actually open up long-term locations, you know?
You can see the gears are set in motion from this. So way to kill it on the presentation.
Great visuals always get me excited. So very nice.
Thank you.
All right, safe space.
One second. Do I?
Yep, just make your screen full screen, please.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, so basically my product is a software that connects to different wearable devices through Bluetooth that provides instantaneous holistic feedback based on the symptomology that people are facing. So however they respond to their environment, it provides personalized solutions through holistic means. So that's kind of what I wanted to integrate into my logo, is creating like a very like a sense of balance and peace in my logo itself. I have different versions with different backgrounds. I wasn't sure whether the top or bottom one would be better, like simplicity wise, or which one's more appealing. So next slide. So this is my mission statement. So empowering you to gain control and awareness of your somatic responses to the environment by providing personalized and accessible holistic solutions to help you feel safe and secure in any space. Safe space facilitates your journey towards a healthier mind, body, and spirit. So this is actually one thing I was unsure about So I talked to my dad who works in data analytics, and he has like a whole team of AI. So my product is trying to leverage AI to actually create these personalized solutions for people. So basically, if I were to go directly to the consumers, he said that you don't necessarily have to announce that you're using AI to provide these personalized solutions. But I also discussed that I would probably be working with the providers initially to basically rent out this product to the patients that these providers are working with. So in that case, I might want to change my mission statement if I'm like targeting it towards the providers themselves, to maybe make it seem more technical and actually say that I'm leveraging AI and like biofeedback. So I guess that's what I'm unsure about, since I am trying to target PTSD patients initially, but then also expand towards everyone in the future. I was a little bit stuck on what my initial mission statement should be if I have like a very much like expanded goal for the future, if that makes any sense.
So I would say keep going. Sorry, you want more slide.
Oh yeah, the next slide is just like the brand guidelines.
So let's talk about the mission statement. So you just talked about a whole bunch of technical stuff, right? And you said, maybe I should change my mission statement. Your mission statement, whether this is directed to providers or toward patients, should stay your mission statement. You can always tell the providers, we're leveraging AI, we're using this, we're using data metrics, but that shouldn't roll in the mission statements. It's more.
It's your why.
Yeah, it's more of like what Taurus talked about, like, you know, develop an icon, you know, like these things are, you're going to sell the providers on your mission statement and you'll sell the customers on it. The technical background of things doesn't, I mean, did you hear Taurus once tell you how our batteries are made? He talked for an hour about like why this thing should exist. Never once talked about that has a gear and a direct drive pulley and it goes 0 to 60. He never told you how fast it goes. He never told you how long the battery lasts. He spoke for an hour about the meaning for this to exist. And that's what you want to sell.
Okay. Yeah, so that makes sense. But since I am initially targeting patients with PTSD, but my like overall goal is to target anyone who's facing any distressing symptoms like in response to their environment, should I maybe keep it broad like as the initial statement rather than saying PTSD patients in particular?
No, absolutely. And I think it's important that you know where you want your MVP to be and like where your first initial users that you're targeting are going to be, but keeping it a broad open statement so you can grow into it's very important.
Okay, sounds great.
That's literally exactly what I was going to say, is don't limit it just to PTSD, because this could be broadly applicable to like people that have specific, you know, like that type of trauma, or it could be even just like a discomfort, right? And so, yeah, that will give you the room to grow, even if that's your initial target demographic, which makes a lot of sense. And yeah, I like the soothing mint. That makes a lot of sense as well. And I know we also wanted to talk about, like, if you have any questions about IP or whatever, like, you know, Peter definitely has knowledge about this because he's been dealing with that and, you know, created so many products and advised and stuff. So please ask, because everyone will benefit from your question and his answer.
Yeah, like my biggest concern with this product is if it were to go into the hands of, say, like Google or Amazon or something who actually already uses like AI and all of these like machine learning algorithms, I feel like it would go into the wrong hands and not actually benefit the people, but be utilized for data collection and like selling people's data, especially because this kind of relies on people's like biological data. So that's what my biggest concern is, like, how can I ensure that this product doesn't go into the wrong hands, especially since it could be easily incorporated now by like those big corporations.
That's interesting. I mean, so if they're going to do it, they're already going to do it. So there's this whole theory of, you know, can they just squash you if they wanted to? And if they could, they will. But you know, you can protect yourself if you're licensing it to someone that in working with them, you can protect yourself with just simple clauses in your agreement with them. You know, if it's a fear of someone stealing your idea, that very rarely happens, and it does happen. I'm not going to say it doesn't, but If you're worried about how they're going to misuse your idea, then the terms of them using what you built says, you know, part of this means you can't use, you know, use the data. And if you look at the company 1 second a day, it's an app where you record 1 second every day of your life and it knits it together, created by a Pratt student 12 years ago. He had opportunities to back end with all these companies and take people's data, but he chose not to do it. And he's very open to that. We aren't taking your data. We're not tracking you. This is for your benefit, for you to help put your life together and store your memories. And we're not trying to steal. And his company could be worth $30 million if he did that, but he chose not to.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at, where I know I could make a huge profit out of this, but I really want to just maintain like the goodness. Like,
Yeah,
of
keep
what
that,
I'm
keep
trying
that.
to-
Look up 1 second a day and look up Caesar Karama, I believe is his name. And he talks about it very openly, that he's had opportunities where people are like, why don't you just, you know, monetize this, take people's data? And he said no.
Yeah.
Peter, do you want to also drill down, just using this as an example of why it would be unlikely someone would steal this?
Well, this is a tough one because this is still so broad and like it hasn't really been defined or tested or used that it's hard, you know, there's not something like once you actually have a working app and an ability to track data and use and show how that data works, you have to ask yourself, who are you showing it to and why are you showing it to them? But you know, NDAs are extremely powerful. The other thing is public disclosure. If you have publicly disclosed how your system works and you're open about it and you're transparent about it, and someone else steals it, you know, you can go after them. Like public disclosure is a form of protection. It's really hard to patent, you know, apps and things like this, but you could file for copyrights on the code. So if you're writing code and if your dad does data analytics, I'm sure he can tell you about this. Like you can copyright bits of code that are unique to your thing, and that can offer protection for you.
Okay, makes sense.
Yeah.
That's
But
super
AI
helpful.
because AI doesn't care about copyrights or trademarks or patents. It takes from everywhere it can pull from. It's an amorphous black box that is like absorbing things, and there's a lot of battles happening around it, and it's very hard. You can't AI artwork is uncopyrightable, Congress has determined. So if you create artwork and visuals in AI, which is a problem that Ray may have, we'll talk about that later, it cannot be copyrighted. So, but it also is drawing from everything while it's also not allowed to create anything that's protected. So it's a weird space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Next is Do. Do.
Okay, yes. Yes. Oh, sorry. Okay, hi. We are Do. We cooperate with the local arts and industries, providing outdoor art education classes for primary school students, and we also can help promote and enhance the local culture and arts at the same time. And our classes combine learning, traveling, and creating, let kids learn through play. Here is our logo. Our logo is a smile face. It is from the latest of DOO. It is handwritten and irregular, more lovely and free. And our slogan is just do after school. It highlights the keywords, including outdoor, drawing for, and creative. And our choice of color is also bold, eye-catching, and high contrast. Here are our font choice for font and for official usage. And our course will be complemented by a design book. Here is a sample using the same design language as the branding. Yeah, thanks.
This is my favorite assignment because all of you guys are also talented as artists. So like I love seeing this creativity, and I think it helps also frame your ideas. I think go back to your mission statements and your vision. Yep. You know, I think this is very clear, and I think it makes a lot of sense, and I think it all works really well. So I don't have a ton to add. I think that you guys kind of nailed it.
Thank you.
Carl?
I think it's beautiful. I love the logo and the simplicity and the colors. The only thing I would say is that if you Google "do," one of the first things that come up is the slang of what, you know, of what "do" sometimes people use the word for. And so I just have to, that's the kind of the elephant in the room. So I guess I gotta, it's my job to call that out. Did you come across that when you were thinking of names?
No, we have this name. It's because a very traditional language from our area. That language in Chinese is ding 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 ding. It's the sound of the yes.
Yeah. So no, I think it's beautiful. That's the only thing is I just had to say that because if you literally Google DOO, one of the first searches will come up. It's sometimes a slang term for like, you know, yeah.
That's for me.
Yes, when a dog goes, you know, or something, you
That's
know,
for
like
me,
a
yeah.
doo-doo.
It's all
for
right.
example.
I don't think it matters. So
Okay,
you know.
so I had to just ask. I like it, you know, just I'm risking to embarrass myself to make sure that this product is bulletproof. So okay.
Luckily, we will.
I wasn't that worried about it, and I got it, but I get you. I get you.
Okay, got it. Great. So
Yeah.
otherwise, no, I love it. I really like the idea. I'm excited to see where this develops.
Thank you. It's
Right.
fun because in China we don't have Google.
Yeah.
Oh.
The best answer I've ever heard.
That's
All
awesome.
right. Street Lizard.
Thank you.
I know we don't have Google.
So hi, so we are Aroma Avenue NYC. So we changed our name previously from Aroma Studio to Aroma Avenue because we still want to reflect the sense of space and the experience of aromatherapy while using our candle making kit. But we also want to think about our the demographic of our target audience, which is people living in metropolitan areas, and we are starting in NYC. And so this illustration style, we want to reflect on the sense of like healing, playfulness, and craftsmanship. We're currently still working on the style, but this is like a general direction. So for our mission statement, we create unique ambience and healing memories with our candle making kits. So it's pretty broad and simple at the moment because we are thinking about not only making candle making kits, but also having ready to burn candles so that people can experience that if they like our scents or not before they decide to purchase the kit. Oh, and our tagline was making every pour a scented memory. So this is our logo. Our logo is inspired by the street signs in New York City or like in any cities. We thought about like these signs provide sense of direction, and we will guide our customers on this healing journey with our candles. And for colors, we pulled from, again, like NYC's, New York City's streets sceneries, and also some paintings in the gallery that feels healing. And these are the color, this is the color palette that we're using. And for font pairing, we are pairing the serif and sans serif to have like this rhythm and feels like contemporary. And this is a quick mock-up of how we're imagining the packaging. It's gonna be a little cube with the candle inside. And on the top of it, there'll be a window sort of where people can smell what the candle smells like before they purchase, if they're purchasing from a physical store. And this corner of the square, we're also thinking about like the shapes that we like usually see in cities, like the metropolitan subways, and oh yeah, and lastly, this is a quick mock-up of we're imagining doing this user manual or like a guide, a step-by-step direction for how they can make the candles. And I think for next steps, we're thinking about also building a website for online store experience. And eventually, we're gonna do a pop-up as our MVP as well. And yeah.
Looks great. Can you go back to your mission statement? All the visuals look incredible.
Thank you.
Yeah, no, this is really good. Can you remind, so and the candle, the healing members of the candle, and how do you get this, how do the scents go back to healing memories? I forgot, sorry.
this.
Yeah, but how do your, what makes the candles unique with the healing memories? You add your own scents?
Yeah, basically it's like we will give them like oils, scented oils and cups, like all the toolkits they need to make their own candle. We actually went to a candle making session, a candle making class in the city last week, and just look at like, yeah, what tools we need. Basically just providing them an experience where they can do on the go. Like they don't have to go to a physical store. They can just purchase the kit and yeah, experience this memory, this moment anytime.
Cool. I'll buy it. It's very nice. Carl?
Yeah, I love it. You guys are so talented. Like, I just love, like, you know, the team after team, just these beautiful designs. I was confused if you're going for a brick and mortar or if you're going for like an online, because you were talking about how in the packaging, like you could smell the scent. Was that more, you were thinking ambitiously, like when you get to the pop-up?
Yeah, for sure. We definitely want to launch a pop-up because we think the experience, to highlight experience and introduce the experience to people. And we just think that it's also easier, not easier, I would say, we can reach a broader audience if we do an online store. So pop-up is kind of like a launch.
Yeah, no, but that's a brilliant idea, because then someone who's not already looking for this could be like, what's this all about? And then you can explain it to them. Like, I think of like Union Square or something like that, like the, you know, the holiday markets and stuff. So
yeah, definitely. We are definitely thinking about the festival, like holiday markets.
Very nice.
Nice.
All right, so we skipped one person. Seppi, do you want to just jump in? And I know you didn't prepare any slides, but did you think about this at all? Are you there?
Yeah, sorry. Let me get some lights here. I did, and I've had like kind of a change of ideas, maybe. I was talking to my mom and she's like, how many times do you go thrift shopping and none of the stuff that you like fits? It's either too big, too small, maybe a little too long on the pants or on the legs. But so we're thinking of making a thrift store with a tailoring section, or it's like geared kind of around customs. Like you can pick up anything in the store and bring it to me in the back, and we can talk about it. We can go through it. Can even model it in like 3D, show you, I don't know, we can talk and then can just make something cool. But I haven't thought much about the logistics of it yet or anything like that.
Cool. So what I would suggest is for our next session, kind of go through all 3 assignments and just work it out.
Okay.
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 Cool.
Thank you.
Hub, Max.
Yeah, we are here. Max. Okay, I will share this screen.
Thank you.
Okay. So hello, we are our top. Go to the first page, please. Yeah, thank you. And our slogan is Art into Daily Life. Next page. So we want to create a platform to focus on field of art and cultural brand licensing and emerging artist advocacy. So with using unique ability of transforming artifacts to the merchandise or byproducts and create storytelling content empowered by teams, we want an increased sales revenues and artist visibility together with commercial brands and the retailers. So Art Hub is working on building a more connected and resilient art business ecosystem. So the reason to choose this font is because it is clean and self-realized, visually impactful and easy to remember. The logo is simply text basis, a hollowed out brand name. It aims to emphasize artwork itself, just as its font name agency. The background can be varied based on different artworks. So the minimal logo is letter A in a mesh-looking style design to represent a more connected art business ecosystem our brands want to contribute to. That's it.
Cool, very beautiful stuff. Go back to your mission statement. It seems a little wordy and a little confusing.
Okay.
So how do we shorten this down to half as long with the, so like we help artists take their brands and make it merchandise or something like that.
Yes.
So I think that like you're elevating sales and revenue for artists. I love that. Building brands with retailers. That should really be in the mission. That's sort of like business goals. We want to work with artists so they can put their stuff on things. We want to work with retailers so they can sell it. That's business goals. That really is not mission statement. Think, we want to allow artists to be able to get their work into more people's hands by allowing them to put it onto other forms of product, and then we sell, and then they can sell through our retail network. But like, just get it a little tighter and a little less wordy, right, Carl?
Okay.
Exactly. And I think what might also help with that is I'd love to hear like your origin story of why. So like, was there a pain point that you had? Was there an experience you had where you're like, I wish I had this, so I'm going to create it for other people so they don't go through this frustration?
The origin story?
Well, I think we're going to describe it right
share.
now. I think it's just like thinking about how you
Right.
present.
Yeah. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but just thinking about like, what was it that made you like, oh man, I want to help other people. I want to do this, like, what was it for you?
Yeah.
Do I explain now or just?
No, think about it and build it into this situation, build it into it, okay?
Because this
Yeah.
is very technical description, but it's missing. Does that make sense? Like kind of like the reason, the drive, and it's beautiful. And I just want to know, I want to feel that drive instead of just the technical components.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, very nice. All right, so we got about 10 minutes for me to present your homework. The next goal is, hold on, I'm going to steal your screen sharing. This Ignition Lab assignment, there it is. Oh, no, hold on, stop sharing. I don't know why it's not. So the next thing that I want you guys to start thinking about is, what is the MVP? So what is your minimum viable product that you can think about actually raising money for to launch in this class? So it maybe is an app, maybe it's a website, maybe it's a pop-up, maybe it's just enough money to like go and test it with actual customers that you've identified. And the first thing I want you to do is understand what MVP means. And Tara's talked about it a little bit. So your first assignment is going to be learning about MVP. So let me see if I can get this right this time. I'm going to open up the right one. That's what happened. And I'll share your assignment. 1 second. There we go. There it is. So I'm giving you some things to read about and like lean startup MVP and what it means. But essentially MVPs mean you build something, you show it to someone, you measure what and even if you're doing a pop-up or you want to do an event or you want to build a website or an app, you got to build something to put in someone's hand, even if it's just visuals, because you can talk so much without showing someone something. And like, I love that, I love that Goo showed me some of the mycelium furniture. I love that Cafe Le Savoir showed me some mock-ups, because it started giving me like a real visualization. And then you're going to go show the people again that you've identified, see what they think, and then you're going to learn from it. This video here from Y Combinator, which is one of the largest startup incubators in the world, really breaks it down how to plan an MVP. I think it's really important to watch. And then I have different examples of minimum viable products. So, you guys want something rudimentary, bare bones, viable enough that people can understand how it works, and tangible enough that people can like like touch it, or in some cases click on it, or pretend to swipe through it. But it's like, you know, is it a website? What is it that you are going to build for your first thing to get people interested? So I share a couple more things on that. And then you need to understand how much you need. Do you need to hire an engineer? Do you need to hire designers? Probably not. You guys are designers. Do you need to find a space and rent it? So then I gave you guys a breakdown for creating a budget for your MVP. From that budget, I'm going to ask you to create either a pie chart or some sort of graph that says, I need this much money to build this, and that's what I'm taking to show an investor. You know, and then the other thing I did was, here are the questions you need to ask. You know, what is the estimated budget to start this business? What will your first product be? How much will the first product cost to launch? You know, is it an app? It might be kind of expensive. If it's a website, it's probably cheaper. If it's a physical product, it can be very expensive. And then the other question is, can your MVP generate money? That's a great one. Most don't, because they're too rudimentary, but some do. In some cases, you might have to ask yourself, if you have a brick and mortar or you have a physical space, you're going to say, how many customers do I need daily, weekly, or monthly to make a profit? And then you're going to break down those costs of how the money will be used for the first year. So I've given you guys a couple of different links to different, if you're starting a retail store, consumer packaged goods product, which would be the candle, a consulting service, which would be like Dot Design Studio, it's, you know, fashion brands, restaurants, apps, and websites, and then some basic pricing. But you guys are going to have to go and investigate, what does it cost to launch this thing? How much money do you need? And that is what we're asking you to do. So I think we meet again in 3 weeks, Carl, is that right? We meet again in 3 weeks, and you're going to come to me and say, so I've looked at all my options of what it's going to cost me to get something going and out there, and this is what I need. So I've identified, this is what I want to do for my MVP. Maybe some of you can say, I don't need money, I just need people, time. That's totally fair also. And then you're going to say, what does that budget look like? How do I deploy that budget? If I was to go tell an investor, you know, I need $100,000 because I have to build an app. You know, I may push back and say, don't go build that app yet. Go build a website. Go build something dirty and sticky that you can see if it works first. But understanding like what your goal is to build your first thing is a really important thing. So when you come to me as an investor, you can say either I built an MVP and here it is and it works. Or you can say, I need this money to build an MVP. And it's a very important thing, because like some businesses require, you know, Tarform, they had to go build 2 motorcycles out of Bondo and hot glue and bad 3D prints and turn them on to go raise money. So, you know, Tarish used $5,000 and grit and know-how, along with eventually a small investment to go get a couple engineers. I know other people like Celine and Nico who did their MVP on Slack and Google Drive.
I was about to say that the Slack channel. I use that example today in class.
Yeah. So you guys kind of need to determine what it is. And then if there's the next thing we do after this is roadmaps. Like, what is your roadmap to success? And what does success mean? You know, in an early stage business, because all of you guys, unless I don't know something, are pre-revenue businesses. And pre-revenue businesses are high-risk businesses. And until you can prove some sort of traction and stickiness, it's going to be very hard to convince an investor to give you money or to invest your own time. Maybe you don't want investor money. Maybe you are independently wealthy, or you've come up with something that you feel you can keep growing. You know, one of my friends, he never took investment money. He struggled for 5 or 6 years, and then he hit it big. And now he doesn't have to pay anyone. He just collects all the checks for himself. But you still need to have metrics of like, what are you building and what do you need to build it? And what does that first success look like with that MVP? Does that make sense? Does anyone have any questions?
Please ask questions, no bad questions.
Yes, we're building a deck again. The deliverable is just the breakdown of our budget, correct?
And sort of a description. So like if yours is your first magazine, you're saying, I need enough money to build my first magazine. And maybe some visuals of what you gave me a cover. Give me some page layouts. What am I investing in? Stoked. What else is it? It's a web app, it's a website, it's a physical magazine. Show me what I'm investing in. Show me what I expect to see built out at scale if I give you money. I think Penny did a great job of this. I wasn't sure about cafes that exist in other cafes, but all of a sudden I kind of am. You know, so Penny, you're kind of further along, but now you got to figure out, like, how much money do I need to rent a space from someone? What is that? Is that is it an empty box area where I'm bringing in an espresso machine? Am I renting an espresso machine? Hiring some labor, getting some cafe tables, you know, putting some posters on the wall. What does that cost? You know?
We're getting some questions in the.
I'm looking. If it is an app, we don't need money. You do need money for an app, right? Why wouldn't you need money for an app? Could you build it yourself? Okay, then how do you test it? You know, so yeah, marketing. So yeah, you need marketing dollars, you know? I mean, apps fall directly in lean startup. So watch the Y Combinator thing. That is like literally built for like tech service SaaS type products and app type products. So if you can build it yourself, that's great, but you probably still need someone to do something.
So is anyone right now wondering, what can I possibly do for an MVP that, you know, we have like the last couple of minutes.
So yours is the pop-up. Seppi, yours is the pop-up. Because I don't think you're going and getting a retail space and starting consignment and bringing in clothing and opening up yours would possibly be like, what if I just created a pop-up next to a thrift store and offered to alter people's clothes?
Okay.
How many people would show up, you know? You know, if I operated it for a week, how many people would show up, you know?
Okay. And would I have to go and test that? Or is there a way to do that?
You were asking for money from me to, you know, how much money do you need to rent a space for a week? Or a month?
I don't know.
Right? Find out. I need to know a budget.
Okay.
Because if you're asking for money, I need to know what you're going to spend my money on.
Seppi, just to clarify, if you're asking for this class, you don't have to invest any money, obviously, but like we still want to pretend that you are going all the way so that even if you don't do this, then you get the experience of going through the process.
Okay. Sweet.
And you're also going to kind of start putting numbers to your idea, which is an important thing.
Yeah.
Because people go, well, how much do you need? Do you know how much money you need? And what are you going to do with that money once you have it?
All right.
So figure out, how much money do I need? And what am I going to do with it? You know, what is my breakdown of my budget? Is it, am I hiring people? Don't hire employees. You probably don't need an employee, but you may need some consultants.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay. Sweet. Thank you.
Aaron.
So I have a question. Does the minimum value is also include like the legal part, like legal advice?
All right, I'm gonna stop my camera because my computer's freezing. So legal advice definitely could be part of your budget. If you're saying to myself, I want to start doing this, but I want to make sure that I'm not going to be liable if someone sues me because they don't feel they're connected, that could fall into your budget. Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
You know, you could say, I need to talk to a lawyer. I need to spend $1,000 and chat with a lawyer and get some legal advice. That absolutely could be part of your budget.
Oh yeah, that also definitely goes for you, especially if you're dealing with like in the therapeutic realm. Yeah.
Oh yeah, what is your question?
Yeah, I was actually curious about how do you, when it comes to like softwares and stuff, are there any resources to figure out like around like an estimate of how much you might need?
So in the homework I'm going to send you, there is links to that stuff. There's a lot of places where you can estimate, like, you know, what it costs to build a website, what it costs to build an app, and it varies all the time. I mean, I beg, borrow, and steal when you're at this, well, maybe not steal, beg and borrow when you're at this phase of your business. I mean, you know, I've definitely had exchanged industrial design service for, you know, people to build websites for me, you know, so, but you kind of just have an idea, like, if I need to build an app that tracks people's health metrics, what does that cost? What does it cost for me to get on the Apple Store, you know? And I don't, building apps and getting apps normally you don't want to build an app all the way out. You want to get into test flight. For anyone who builds apps, they know it's like a platform where you test it. And like I'll just say, like Selena and Nico, they didn't launch their app until this year when they raised $3.5 million. They were very happy being online, you know. But you may need an embedded engineer that knows how to work with hardware to get software to talk to it. And they're not cheap, you know. So you may say, I need to get a consultant embedded engineer. I can tell you right now, the highest paid person at Tarform is the guy who makes the battery talk to the motor and the bike go.
Right. Makes sense. So like, I guess for an MVP, maybe like creating a user flow or like a mock-up of the software to show providers.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. And if you say, I don't need a lot of money for it, great, you know.
Thank
The
you.
less you spend and the further you get without spending money, the better off you are.
Right, because you can test it lean and then modify it before you start investing like lots of money.
Anyone else? All right, guys. We'll see you guys in a month. Thank you for showing up and being attentive.
Great class, guys. You guys like killed it today. Super impressed. Great job. We'll see you on March 2nd.
And your homework will go out by Sunday.
Thank you.
Take care, guys.
Later.
And then, yeah, Peter knows I don't really have anything more to say other than, you know, great class as always, Peter and Oz and Peter. I'll see you on Tuesday. So, you know,
Yeah, next Tuesday is remote. This Tuesday we're in class. Next Tuesday
okay,
is
so
remote.
next Tuesday's remote. Thank you for telling me. So I'll put that down on the calendar. Otherwise, I would have showed up and been like, "Where is everybody?" Great. All right, so I'm gonna sign off unless anyone else has any other questions.
Yeah, no, great class. I enjoyed Terrace as well. He was great. Great story. Yeah, incredible.
Yeah, great.
All right, I'll see you.
Thanks again, man. It was
yeah,
great
of
having
course.
you in class.
Sorry about that. I got kicked out for some reason.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, great job, both of you, and I'll talk to you in class, Peter, because I wanted to just kind of like check in with you, especially about the stuff that I'm least familiar with, which is financial modeling, about like the best way to prepare for that class, you know?
Yeah. The next class.
Yeah, so, but I'll talk to you on Tuesday about that. So,
right,
because
later.
you are, I'm sure you're more even than I am, you know?
Yeah, I guest lectured last night at Parsons. I guest lectured today for another class, and then I had this, and like everything just started blending together, you know?
Dude, you killed it though. This class, honestly, it just keeps getting better. This was so inspiring, and the quality of work that they did with their decks was like just blew me away. So great work.
All right, later, guys.
Good night, everybody.
Take care.